I starved myself, worked my fingers to the bone, and played fairy godmother to help my 7 adopted sisters become top-tier VIPs in their respective fields. And my reward? They kicked me out of the house like a stray dog that peed on their expensive rug. It was only then that I realized I was just a placeholder. Now that the real young master of the Lincoln family had been found, I was tossed out into the streets without a second thought. I stared at the $500,000 check resting on the coffee table, raising an eyebrow. "What's the meaning of this, eldest sister?" Claire Lincoln, the ever-so-cold CEO, replied with a face like carved ice. "When father was alive, you took care of him. Now that he's gone, you have no reason to stay in this house. This money is your severance package. So, I'm being evicted." I let out a dry laugh looking at her. "Did you really think you had the qualifications to stay?" Claire's voice dropped another 10 degrees. "Everything the Lincoln family has today was built by the 7 of us. What have you ever done for this family besides playing nurse for the old man? It's best we go our separate ways. Don't make this ugly. And the rest of you? You all agree?" I swept my gaze over the other 6 sisters. "We took a vote. You lost," Claire said, looking impatient. "Don't force me to say things that will hurt your feelings." I looked up, my eyes landing on the massive family portrait hanging on the wall. Hundreds of photos in this house, and not a single one had me in it. "Taking care of Mr. Lincoln was my responsibility," I said, glancing at the check. "I don't need your charity. These things were originally mine anyway, but from this day forward, our ties are cut. Lose my number. The betrayal and eviction stung, blending into a cocktail of heartbreak and sheer annoyance. I had silently bled for this family for over a decade, only to get the boot. They don't deserve me. I turned on my heel and marched toward the door. Third sister, Tracy Lincoln, stood up, her voice dripping with disdain. "You sponged off the Lincoln family's wealth for over 10 years, and you have the nerve to be ungrateful? We are the ones who should feel cheated. You're just a parasite living off our hard work. You have no right to act all high and mighty." I paused, turning back to give her a deadpan stare. "Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night." "Get out," she scoffed, glaring at me like I was a bad smell. "Get out of our sight." "Oh, don't worry, you'll soon see who the real parasite is," I said, stepping out of the Lincoln mansion. "Hold it right there. Hand over the check." Just outside the gates, a blonde teenager suddenly lunged at me. One hand in his pocket, the other extended like a brat demanding candy. "That's Lincoln family money. Don't even think about taking a single dime." I frowned. "The $500K Claire gave me?" The blonde kid sneered. "Don't make me get physical. By the way, the name's Kevin Lincoln, the biological son of the dead old man in there. Fact is, kicking you to the curb was my one condition for moving back in. Kevin Lincoln." I narrowed my eyes, finally putting the pieces together. "Years ago, because you tried to make a move on fourth sister, the old man banished you. Now that he's dead, you suddenly crawl back?" I chuckled coldly. "You're not getting that $500K. As for the Lincoln family's wealth, I'll be taking all of it back." Kevin's face darkened. He pulled his hand from his pocket, ready to swing. I casually sidestepped, grabbed him by the collar, and lifted him off the ground like a misbehaving kitten. "If you weren't the old man's son, you'd be a chalk outline right now," I whispered coldly. "Remember that. You only get this one free pass." I tossed Kevin onto the pavement, gave his groaning form a polite nod, and walked away. Not long after, my phone buzzed. "Boss," a voice said on the other end, "tomorrow, the tech and media stocks will skyrocket. Also, in room 108 on East Street, there's a wanted fugitive hiding out. From today on, no need to report to me anymore," I interrupted, looking up at the sky. For over a decade, my entire heart and soul were dedicated to that family. I was born with a rare, terminal cold poison condition. Even though the old man extended my life, I only have about a year left to live. Now, I'm going to live for myself. A few minutes later, I pulled a crumpled piece of paper from my pocket and headed to the address scribbled on it. This was the final relic old man Lincoln left me before he died. Meanwhile, back at the Lincoln mansion, the 7 sisters and their adoptive mother, Victoria, rushed out the front door. "Kevin, sweetie, are you okay?" Victoria wailed, dropping to her knees to coddle him. "That ungrateful little punk has some nerve!" "Mom, I'm fine," Kevin whined, holding his face. "Leo's probably just mad because I took his spot. Should we have let him stay?" Claire frowned, grinding her teeth. "I didn't expect him to be such a violent thug." "You made the right call, eldest sister." Second sister, Rachel Lincoln, sighed in disappointment. "Keeping him around would only put Kevin in danger." Victoria glared at Rachel. "The only son of this family got assaulted, and you're just gonna stand there? Rachel, I'm leaving this to you. Find Leo and make him apologize to Kevin." Rachel reluctantly nodded, pushing up her glasses. "Fine." at the Beautiful View apartment complex. Spoiler, the view was not beautiful. I stood in front of a rundown, peeling building. After making sure I hadn't read the address wrong, I knocked on a rusty door. It creaked open. A middle-aged man in a tank top, sporting a hunched back and holding a meat cleaver, peeked out cautiously. "Uncle Harry?" I asked. Harry's eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. "Young Master Leo? The wife is here, look who it is." He hastily put the cleaver away and swung the door wide open. "Sorry for the mess, didn't know you were dropping by." "Uncle Harry, I'm not a young master anymore," I said, ducking into the cramped, dimly lit apartment. "They kicked me out. I'm officially a homeless orphan now." Harry froze, then burst into hearty laughter. "Well, if you don't mind the tight squeeze, you can stay with us." "Harry, what are you babbling about?" His wife, Aunt Lily, hurried out carrying a plate of sad, wrinkled apples. Knowing the Lincoln sisters, they'll probably come begging Leo to return tomorrow. "Uncle Harry, what happened to your leg?" I asked, looking from the wilted apples to his pronounced limp. It was obvious they were struggling to make ends meet. "Oh, don't get me started," Lily began, but Harry immediately barked. "Enough!" My eyes flashed with a hint of danger. "Uncle Harry, who did this?" I grabbed his hands, my tone dead serious. "Don't hide it from me," Harry sighed, lighting a cheap cigarette. Old man Lincoln's kindness to me was higher than mountains. I shouldn't speak ill, but years ago, when Kevin tried to assault your sister, I caught him and told the old man. The old man kicked Kevin out. From then on, Madame Victoria hated my guts. He took a long drag. A year later, she sent goons to accidentally crush my leg while I was unloading cargo. She even threatened my daughter's life. I shook my head. I knew Victoria saw me as a thorn in her side, but I didn't expect her to be that cartoonishly evil. "Uncle Harry, I left in a hurry, so I only have a little cash on me. Take this for now." I pulled out a few $100 bills and placed them on the table. "Leo, what are you doing?" Harry hurriedly tried to shove the money back into my pockets. "I don't like you because you're a rich kid. If you act like this, get out." All right, my bad." I smiled, taking the money back, feeling a strange, unfamiliar warmth in my chest. Just then, a college girl wearing a backpack bounced into the room. "Hazel, look who's here!" Harry beamed at his daughter. "Brother Leo, what are you doing here?" Hazel practically tackled me with a hug. "Just missed you, that's all." I patted her head, catching the faint scent of floral shampoo. "I'm going to buy some groceries. Leo, if you don't mind, stay for dinner." Harry scraped together a few crumpled bills from a drawer and limped out the door. "Brother Leo, how did you find us?" Hazel chirped, pouting playfully. "I thought I'd never see you again. I got kicked out. Nowhere else to go." I gave her the short version of the story. Suddenly, a loud commotion erupted outside, followed by violent pounding on the door. Aunt Lily instantly grabbed the meat cleaver, hyperventilating. "Hazel, take Leo into the back room, now." "Leo, come with me." Hazel grabbed my hand, trying to pull me away. "No need." I narrowed my eyes, a freezing aura rolling off my shoulders. "From today on, this is my home too." I swung the door open. A thug wearing a gaudy floral shirt and a thick gold chain stood there. He froze when he saw me, then forced a totally fake smile. "Young Master Leo, what wind blew you here?" "He's no longer a young master," a cultist female voice echoed from the hallway. Rachel Lincoln, wearing a black trench coat, gold-rimmed glasses, and clicking her Valentino heels, appeared like a final boss. As of today, Leo has zero connection to the Lincoln family. Seeing her, my expression barely shifted. "Don't try to act friendly," Rachel said, pushing up her glasses, her voice pure ice. "You're not a Lincoln anymore. Stop using our family name to play gangster." "Sure thing," I replied casually. "So, Dr. Lincoln, what brings you to this fine establishment?" "Go back and apologize to Kevin," Rachel demanded. "Do that, and I'll give you $500K. With that money, you won't starve, and you can solve whatever mess this is." She gestured vaguely at the thugs. Hazel was furious. "Just because you have money means you can bully honest people? Who do you think you are?" Rachel frowned. "Is it your turn to speak?" She turned back to me, her eyes dripping with condescension. "Leo, even if the family doesn't want you, you don't have to stoop so low as to mingle with this lower-class trash." "Dr. Lincoln," I cut in, my voice dangerously soft. "I'd appreciate it if you showed some basic human respect. Is this how the old man taught you to behave? Or did you skip that class?" I stepped closer, staring her down. "What defines lower class? Being poor? Does having a fancy title at a hospital make you royalty? You remind me to remember my place. Well, let me remind you. Without the old man taking you in, you'd still be an abandoned brat, shivering on the sidewalk." "Leo!" Rachel gasped, taking a step back. A trembling finger pointed at me. "Have you said enough? These people are ungrateful thieves who stole from us." "Ah, bringing up ancient history. Got proof?" Or are we just taking Victoria's word as gospel? I crossed my arms. If you don't have proof, apologize right now, because from today this is my house, and no one disrespects my people. Rachel laughed out of sheer anger. Fine, I apologize for what I said. Let's see how you protect them now, tough guy. The offer stands. Apologize to Kevin, and I'll help you fix this. Ms. Lincoln, are you serious? The floral shirt thug asked cautiously. He's been kicked out. He's nothing to us. Even if I help him, it's just a transaction, Rachel replied coldly. Got it, Doc. The thug immediately cracked his knuckles looking at Aunt Lily. Where's my money, old lady? The thugs quickly surrounded me. I tilted my head. What's going on here? Aunt Lily wiped her tears. When Harry broke his leg, I borrowed $3,000 from them for surgery. Less than a month later, they said we owed $10,000. We've paid back over $300K over 10 years, but the debt just keeps growing. You still owe $300K. When are you paying? The thug roared. Just then, Harry was dragged up the stairs, stumbling. He fell to his knees in front of the thug. Please, we really have nothing left. Shut up, old man, the thug threatened. If you don't pay, we're taking your daughter. Hey, Leo, if you agree to the doc's deal, I'll take the $500K to clear the debt. Rachel looked at me, a victorious smirk playing on her lips. Last chance, Leo. If you decline, don't come crying to me. Thanks for the offer, Doc, but I prefer doing things my way. Before anyone could blink, I launched a front kick directly into Floral Shirt's chest. He flew backward like he was shot out of a cannon, crashing out the third-floor window and landing heavily on the pavement below. Don't worry, he broke his fall with his face. Dead silence. Rachel was horrified. Leo, are you insane? Do you think throwing a tantrum will make people pity you? Doctor, in your eyes, am I really that useless? I glanced back at her, eyes freezing over. If you change your mind, go complain to Claire. Rachel stomped off, fuming. Leo, run! Harry yelled, tearing his shirt to pull out a few crumpled bills. I don't have much, take this and run. These guys are connected. Brother Leo, run, they won't let you go. Hazel sobbed, clinging to my arm. Take Uncle Harry and Aunt Lily inside. Lock the doors and windows, and don't open them no matter what you hear. Understand? I ruffled her hair, speaking gently. I never lie to you. I'm going to sort this out and be back for dinner, without a scratch. Okay, I trust you. Hazel stood on her tiptoes and pressed a soft, quick kiss to my lips. Books say a first kiss brings good luck. I'll be waiting for you to eat the food I cook. She wiped her tears and hurried inside. The moment the door clicked shut, the soft smile vanished from my face, replaced by absolute zero. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. You have 10 minutes to get your boys to the Beautiful View apartments. If you're late, you know what happens. Meanwhile, at the Lincoln mansion, eldest sister, I can't do this anymore. Rachel stormed into the living room, throwing her purse on the sofa. He had the nerve to lecture me and make me apologize to a bunch of nobodies. I've never been so humiliated. The living room was tense. 5 of the sisters were sitting on the couches, their expressions completely unreadable. What are you idiots doing? Claire was pacing by the window, screaming into her phone. I pay you millions a year, not to hear your apologies. Fix the portfolio. If we're still losing money tomorrow, you're all fired. What's going on? Rachel whispered. Claire's international stock portfolio tanked today. Massive losses, Valerie, 7th sister whispered back. She's furious. Rachel was shocked. But Claire's investments never lose money. Exactly. That's why she's blowing a gasket over a multi-million-dollar dip, Valerie mumbled. Claire slammed the phone down and whirled around. What are you whispering about? How did it go with Leo? I couldn't do it, Rachel sighed. He's too proud to bow his head, and before I left, he decided to give a local loan shark a free-flying lesson out a third-story window. The sisters gasped. Has Leo lost his mind? He must be triggered, one sister noted. Maybe we were a bit too ruthless? Regardless, he has nothing to do with this family anymore. Claire snapped, her voice leaving no room for argument. The living room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Suddenly, the house phone rang. Claire put it on speaker. CEO Lincoln, I heard you kicked Leo out, a raspy voice grated through the speaker. Yes, why? Claire asked coldly. He just crippled one of my boys. If he's no longer under your protection, I'll be dealing with him by the laws of the street. Don't come looking for me later. Click. Valerie looked panicked. Eldest sister, that was Tyron from the west side. He's ruthless. Will Leo be okay? He brought it upon himself. He wants to play tough guy. He can face the consequences, Claire said stubbornly. I said it before. No one is to mention his name in this house again. She turned and marched upstairs. In her bedroom, Claire was a mess. The massive financial loss had triggered her chronic insomnia, a condition she hadn't suffered from in years. She rubbed her temples, reaching for a magazine on her nightstand. She flipped through a few pages, then frowned and called for her maid. Auntie Liu, what's wrong with this magazine? The maid looked nervous. I'm sorry, miss, I don't understand. For years, the young master always selected the magazines and gave them to me to put by your bed. Since he's not here, I just grabbed a random one. Claire froze, waving the maid away. Could it be? Was her flawless winning streak in the stock market somehow tied to Leo? She scrambled to pull out all the old magazines he had left her, cross-referencing them with historical stock data. Half an hour later, Claire was sitting on the floor, absolutely stunned. She realized that out of 20 stocks casually highlighted or bookmarked in those magazines every night, 10 would skyrocket the very next day. The other 10 remained stable. Her genius success on Wall Street had been secretly spoon-fed to her by Leo the entire time. No, impossible. Claire shook her head frantically. I have to prove my success is because of me and my team, not someone else. She stood up, her eyes conflicted, and walked out of the room. Tracy, you're a cop. Take a drive down there. Make sure he doesn't die. I don't care if they break his legs, but he has to stay alive long enough to apologize to Kevin. Under the night sky at the Beautiful View apartments, over a dozen cargo trucks screeched to a halt. Nearly 100 thugs poured out, wielding steel pipes and looking ready to start a riot. Tonight is going to be educational. Baldy Tyron, wearing his signature tight floral shirt, twitched his lip. Someone dared to touch my men on Westside turf. Tonight, I'm going to show these poverty-stricken peasants what happens when you mess with me.
Lou! Get your ass out here!
Tyron roared. Shh! Keep it down, the neighbors are sleeping. I smiled, casually stepping out from the shadows. I heard Claire kicked your sorry butt to the curb, Tyron sneered, lighting a cigar. Is that true? You heard right. I nodded. Then if you're not a Lincoln anymore, where did you find the guts to touch my guys? Tyron flicked his ash, chuckling darkly. You're the first idiot to disrespect me on my turf. If you don't die tonight, I'll look like a joke to my crew. If you can't look like a joke, then just be one, I replied. Without warning, I delivered a spinning kick. Tyron, completely off guard, was launched 15 feet into the air, landing with a sickening thud and spitting out a mouthful of blood. Leo, without the Lincolns you're nothing. Tyron wheezed in agony. Hack him to pieces. Who said I need the Lincolns to avoid being bullied? I casually dusted off my jacket. The West Side is my territory. I have 100 men, Tyron roared. Yeah, and? I have money. I have power. What do you have to fight me with? Tyron screamed, his men charging forward. I want you dead? I didn't even flinch. I just smiled and tilted my head. Look behind you. A man in a sharp black suit, parted the sea of thugs, walked right up to me and dropped to one knee. Greetings, boss. Tyron wiped the blood from his mouth and laughed. Leo, do you think I'm 3 years old? You hired an actor to scare me? Boys, show him what real power looks like. I just looked at him with pure pity. The man in the suit stood up and fired a flare gun into the night sky. As the flare illuminated the area, the ground began to tremble. Boss, is it an earthquake? One of the thugs stammered, looking at his feet. An earthquake? In the middle of the city? Tyron yelled. Leo, stop playing parlor tricks. Go see what's happening. He shoved a grunt forward. 30 seconds passed. The grunt didn't come back. Tyron gulped, gripping his steel pipe. Follow me. But his men didn't move forward. They were backing up. Tyron aggressively shoved his way to the front of his pack, and when he saw what was waiting, the sweat instantly beaded on his bald head. Blocking the streets were men in tailored black suits. Not 10, not 50. There were so many that they faded into the darkness at the end of the block. This is impossible, Tyron stammered, horrified. I casually strolled past the paralyzed gang of thugs. Suddenly, the thousands of men in black suits dropped to one knee in perfect, terrifying unison. I closed my eyes, slowly spreading my arms. Years ago, I had secretly built this syndicate from the ground up, hoping that one day, when the old man passed, I could use it to protect the Lincoln family. But now that family didn't need me anymore. Take out the trash, I ordered coldly. Schwing. Thousands of machetes were drawn simultaneously. The metallic hiss alone made half of Tyron's thugs collapse in fear. In less than 5 seconds, over 100 street thugs were thoroughly convinced to reconsider their life choices, disappearing under a wave of black suits without even a chance to scream. Tyron's face was drained of all blood. He collapsed to his knees, trembling violently. Boss! I was blind! Please spare me! He started aggressively headbutting the concrete in a frantic bow. I'll be your dog, your horse! Anything! I looked down at him, utterly unimpressed. In this city, there is no Leo. There is only the boss. Speak. Why were you harassing Uncle Harry? It was your adoptive mother's orders, Tyron babbled, shaking like a leaf. Victoria gave me $5 million to make his life a living hell. The Lincolns are too powerful. I just followed orders. Boss, If that evil witch kicked you out, just spare me, and I'll help you teach her a lessons. He slammed his head harder against the ground. Give me a chance. I stared at the pathetic man. I reached out, accepting a suppressed pistol from Blake, my suited right-hand man. Pew. Tyron was swiftly given a permanent involuntary nap. Boss, Tracy Lincoln is driving this way. She'll be here in 5 minutes, Blake whispered, checking his phone. I chuckled coldly, shaking my head. Coming to collect my corpse, I bet. Blake, clean this up. From tomorrow on, Tyron's territory is yours. My rules are now the city's rules. I pulled a silk handkerchief from my pocket, wiped a speck of dust off my hands, and headed toward the stairs. Understood, Blake nodded. The thousands of men vanished like a retreating tide, taking the sleeping thugs with them, leaving the street completely spotless. Upstairs, Uncle Harry couldn't take the suspense anymore. He grabbed his meat cleaver and threw the door open, ready to go down swinging. I had just raised my hand to knock. Leo, are you okay? Harry gasped, looking me up and down. Never better. It was all a big misunderstanding, I smiled reassuringly. We talked it out. Tyron decided to find a new hobby and left. We can live in peace now. He left? Harry scratched his head, totally bewildered. Are we eating yet? I'm starving. I patted my stomach, breezing past him into the apartment. Hazel practically tackled me, tears in her eyes. I knew you wouldn't lie to me. Realizing she was hugging me a bit too tightly in front of her parents, she blushed and let go. Let's eat. Let's eat. Come, sit. We're having a drink tonight. Harry excitedly pulled out a dusty bottle of cheap liquor and poured me a glass. Thanks, Uncle. I raised my glass, accidentally catching Hazel's gaze. What? Got your eye on my daughter? Harry boomed with laughter. Tell you what, when Hazel graduates, you two should get married. At the exact same time, down at the Beautiful View Apartments, a white Mercedes slammed on its brakes. Tracy Lincoln kicked the door open, looking around the slightly messy street, her nose wrinkling in disgust. She caught a faint whiff of copper in the air. As a cop, she knew the smell of blood. Fearing the worst, Tracy sprinted up the stairs and hammered on the door. Inside, Harry nearly jumped out of his skin, grabbing the cleaver again. Did Tyron come back? Relax. Tyron promised me he's never coming back, I said, checking my watch. I stood up and opened the door. Leo, what are you doing here? Tracy stared at me, completely stunned to find me alive and completely intact. Not dead. Did you need something? I asked flatly. If not, don't interrupt my dinner. Leo, you've got some nerve. Tracy scowled. Is that how you talk to me? Why wouldn't I? I sneered. Who are you? The Queen of England? Everyone has to bow when you walk by? Slam. I shut the door in her face. Leo, I came here out of pity to help you, and this is how you repay me. Tracy yelled at the wooden door, furious. She stomped back downstairs. I don't believe you can survive in this dump. When you come crawling back crying, I'm going to make you regret this. Getting back into her car, Tracy dialed her subordinate. Check on Tyron's movements tonight. I want a full report by morning. It was 2 a.m. by the time Tracy got back to the mansion. The lights were still on. Valerie, aren't you supposed to have an art exhibition tomorrow? Why are you still up? Tracy asked, seeing her seventh sister intensely painting in the living room. The colors are all wrong! Valerie ripped the canvas off the easel, shredding it in frustration. I've been adjusting it all night, and it's still off. How did you do it before? Tracy asked, grabbing a cold Coke from the fridge. Valerie froze. She suddenly remembered that whenever she painted in the past, Leo was always right beside her. He didn't just compliment her work, he actually mixed her paints for her. Valerie? You okay? Tracy waved a hand in front of her face. I'm fine, Valerie forced a smile. Leo really is an ungrateful jerk. The more I think about it, the angrier I get, right? Tracy agreed. He sucked up to us to stay in the house, and the second he's out, he turns on us. But, third sister, Valerie bit her lip. Why do we always assume the worst about him? Could it be that he actually cared about us? Tracy looked taken aback. Valerie, I'm warning you, he is not our brother. Our only brother is Kevin. If Mom hears you say that, she'll lose it. But do you guys ever think about Leo's feelings? Valerie shook her head, picking up her easel and retreating upstairs. In the master bedroom, Claire was tossing and turning in agony. Eldest sister, are you feeling any better? Rachel asked, worriedly, standing by the bed. I gave you sedatives and sleeping pills. They should kick in soon. As the vice president of the city hospital, this was the first time Rachel felt entirely useless. Go home, Rachel. I'll be fine if I just lie here. Claire forced a weak smile, waving her off and closing her eyes.
Rest well.
Rachel sighed, turning off the lights and closing the door. Passing through the kitchen, Rachel noticed Claire's teacup sitting on the counter. She subconsciously picked it up and sniffed. Herbal medicine? Second, miss, do you need something? The maid asked quietly. Who made this tea? Rachel asked, showing the cup. Why, young Master Leo did, the maid answered carefully. Every night, he'd brew a cup and tell me to give it to the eldest miss. Since he wasn't here tonight, I just made some random tea. Rachel's face darkened. Do not tell anyone about this. Understand? She poured the remaining liquid into a vial, intending to take it to the hospital lab to see exactly what Leo had been giving her sister. The next morning, Valerie quietly drove her Mini Cooper away from the mansion. Even though her sisters had warned her about how terrible Leo's new neighborhood was, the reality of the rundown apartment block still shocked her. Suppressing her discomfort, she stood in front of the peeling door. Just as it opened, she panicked and ran down the stairs, bumping right into someone. Sorry, I'm so sorry. She looked up and froze. It was me. I was carrying a plastic bag of soy milk and fried dough sticks for breakfast. Did you come here to force me to apologize to Kevin too? I asked, my face completely blank. No. Valerie shook her head rapidly. Whether you believe it or not, I had no part in kicking you out. So you just stood by and watched. Got it. I gave a half smile. No, I know living here must be awful, and you must hate us. Let me stop you right there. I cut her off. I don't hate you at all. Actually, I want to thank you. You guys really helped me figure out who actually gives a damn about me and who doesn't. If you don't have any actual business here, please stay out of my life. I walked past her, heading up the stairs. Leo, wait. Valerie summoned her courage and chased after me. My exhibition is in 2 hours. Wish me luck. Good luck, I said flatly. This exhibition is really important to me, but I can't get the colors right, she mumbled, looking embarrassed. And that's my problem because… I glanced at my soy milk. It was getting cold. Could you just help me mix the paint one last time? Just once, I'm begging you. Valerie's eyes welled with tears. Do you know why the flowers in your paintings are always so vibrantly red? I asked. She shook her head. How could you? Because that red is my blood. I watched her jaw drop. I studied under the old man for a year. I scoured the city to find the best ingredients for your paints. Even your canvases were custom ordered by me. Valerie stood there, looking like she had been struck by lightning. Funny, isn't it? I mocked myself. Over a decade in that house, and did any of you ever bother to notice what I was actually doing? Tears streamed down Valerie's face. She turned away in a daze. Wait, I called out. You'll help me? Valerie wiped her eyes, a spark of hope igniting. Valerie, you wouldn't want your 6 sisters and Victoria finding out you snuck over here, right? I smirked coldly. Leo, are you crazy? What do you want? Valerie backed away in panic, unable to believe her ears. Even if we aren't blood, I'm still your sister. Are you trying to blackmail me? I raised an eyebrow. Don't flatter yourself. I just have 2 rules. 1. Whatever you heard today stays with you. 2. You raised me, sure, but I paid that debt in full. From today, we are dead to each other. Valerie froze, sobbing uncontrollably. Leo, you used to never be like this, she choked out. The old Leo is dead, I said, turning my back and walking away. This is the bed you made. From now on, Leo is history in this city. Valerie ran to her car, collapsed onto the steering wheel, and cried her eyes out. After breakfast, I took the bus with Hazel to drop her off at school. I felt absolutely zero pity for Valerie's tears. The moment I walked out of the Lincoln gates, I knew I could never forgive them. Brother Leo used to be a young master, and now you're squeezing onto a crowded bus with me. Hazel beamed, her face radiating pure joy. Just wait. When I graduate and make money, I'll buy you a house, a car, and be your sugar mama. I laughed, flicking her forehead. And what is your boyfriend going to say about that? What boyfriend? Hazel put her hands on her hips, glaring at me. Hey, you already stole my first kiss. Are you trying to dodge responsibility? I was ambushed. When was I ever the guilty party? I threw my hands up in defense. Hazel's face turned beet red. She started playfully pummeling my chest with her tiny fists. You hooligan! I'm telling my dad. Just then the bus arrived. I pulled her on board, narrowly escaping further assault. Once on the bus, I tested the waters. Hey, what if I moved you and your parents into a massive house? Think they'd agree? Hazel's expression tightened. Did you take money from the Lincolns? Not a single dime. I shook my head. Hazel breathed a sigh of relief. Even if we starve, we won't take their charity. After what they did to you, my parents would rather sleep under a bridge. What if the money is mine? I asked. Hazel blinked. Do you think my dad would believe that? I smiled helplessly. Fair point. How could a guy who got kicked out with nothing suddenly be loaded? I'd have to slowly ease the Harry family into the reality of my bank account. Look, I placed my backpack on my lap and slowly unzipped it. Holy! Hazel's eyes bugged out, her voice a mix of awe and terror. Inside were neat stacks of cash, easily a few $100,000. Brother Leo, you didn't do anything illegal, did you? She whispered, her eyes getting red. What goes on in that head of yours? I sighed. Yesterday, after I convinced Tyron to leave, he realized he had been unfair to your family and returned the money. Principal plus interest. 400k. This is your family's money. Tyron, was that easy to talk to? Hazel muttered suspiciously, pouting. I didn't know he was such a reasonable guy. If I hand this straight to your dad, he won't take it, I said, shoving the bag into her arms, with finality. You handle it. Early morning, outside the gates of the City Foreign Language University, Hazel and I had just stepped onto campus when a preppy guy holding a massive bouquet of flowers strutted over. Hazel, is this your brother? The guy, dripping in designer clothes, eyed me up and down like I was a bad stain. No, he's my boyfriend. Hazel smoothly linked her arm through mine, flashing a brilliant smile. Can I help you? No, not really. Just bought these on the way here. The guy's face twitched as he forced a smile. This was Tyler Sterling. He had been chasing Hazel for 6 months with zero success. His smile turned downright sinister. I won't bother you guys then. Tyler turned away, immediately pulling out his phone to text. That little brat wants to play hard to get? Fine. We'll do this the hard way. In a secluded alley just outside the campus, a black Mercedes suddenly screeched to a halt beside me. The doors flew open. Tyler stepped out of the back seat, flanked by 2 massive bodyguards. Remember the name Tyler Sterling? He sneered, waving a hand. The 2 goons cracked their knuckles and lunged at me. I don't care what your relationship is with Hazel, Tyler mocked, keeping his hands in his pockets. Today, you're getting an education. If I ever see your face around this campus again, you'll get a repeat lesson. He smugly popped 2 buttons on his shirt. Know why I picked this alley? Why? I asked, looking bored. Because there are no cameras. Tyler gave a self-satisfied smirk. I can beat you to a pulp, and you won't have a shred of proof. In the next microsecond, I moved. I grabbed both bodyguards by the backs of their heads and slammed them face first into the brick wall. Crack! They crumpled to the ground like wet noodles. Tyler's eyes bulged out like he had just seen a ghost. What do you think you're doing? I grabbed him by his perfectly styled hair and slammed his face directly into the Mercedes windshield. The glass shattered into a spiderweb pattern. Tyler went limp on the hood, his face a bloody mess. I calmly wiped a spot of blood off my hand, turned around, and vanished down the alley. Meanwhile, behind the school building, a group of mean girls blocked Hazel's path. Wendy, the student council president, smirked. Hazel, someone reported you for stealing money. Time for a search. Who reported me? Hazel frowned. Doesn't matter. The money's definitely on you. Take your jacket off, Wendy demanded, crossing her arms in triumph. She had hated Hazel for ages, and now she had the principal's backing to make her life miserable. If you want to search me, call the cops. Hazel tried to push past them. Move, I have class. We all know your parents are broke, Wendy sneered. A crippled dad and a useless mom. If you need money so bad, with a pretty face like yours, just go sell yourself. Hazel's eyes snapped red. She delivered a lightning-fast kick straight to Wendy's chest. Wendy shrieked and fell backward. Get her, she yelled. 6 student council members swarmed Hazel, 2 of them easily pushing 200 pounds.
Been itching for a fight, haven't you?
Hazel gritted her teeth, pulling a solid wooden baton out of her backpack. Half a minute later, Hazel wiped a streak of blood from her lip and limped toward her classroom. Behind her, several girls were writhing on the ground, groaning in pain, sporting some highly customized facial injuries. Stop right there! A few security guards ran over, looking grim. Come with us to the security office. At the 5 Continents International Clubhouse, Eyes, dressed in a sharp black suit, led a procession of dozens of men. Flanking the entrance were rows of uniformed guards, radiating an intimidating aura. Boss, the leaders of the West Side gangs are all in the conference room, Blake whispered. They're being stubborn, refusing to cooperate. I chuckled coldly. Tyron is dead. What do they think they can do? I pushed the double doors open. The loud, chaotic arguing inside instantly died. Dozens of eyes locked onto me. I casually walked over to Tyron's old seat at the head of the table, sat down, and swept a freezing gaze over the room. Tyron is out of the picture. From today on, the West Side belongs to me. Anyone got a problem with that? A middle-aged man stood up, scoffing. Based on what? Word is you're just a piece of trash the Lincolns threw out. A few chuckles echoed through the room. The Lincoln family's stray dog wants to play mob boss. Before the laughter could finish, I unsheathed the katana from Blake's hands and swung. Shh! The man who spoke found himself suddenly lacking a right arm. Blood painted the mahogany table. He fell to his knees, screaming in agony as he was dragged out of the room by my men. The conference room went dead silent. The men who were mocking me a second ago now looked like they were attending their own funerals. Any other objections? I leaned back in my chair, slowly sliding the katana back into its scabbard. Silence. No objections? Good. The West Side is mine. Anyone who betrays me will find their entire family taking an early retirement underground. Just then, a guard rushed in. Boss, a guy named Thomas Sterling wants to see the second boss, Cole. Should I let him in? On the way here, I had already run a background check on the idiot Tyler Sterling. Anyone who threatened Hazel had zero right to breathe my air. Outside the clubhouse, Thomas Sterling was pacing anxiously, accompanied by his son Tyler, whose head was wrapped in bandages like a mummy. Dad, you have to help me get revenge! Tyler hissed through his swollen jaw. Relax. I called the local underworld. I'll handle this, Thomas huffed. Nobody touches my son and lives to tell the tale. The clubhouse doors opened. The boss invites you in, a guard said. Thomas frowned, whispering to Tyler, Who's the boss? Since when did the West Side have a guy just called the boss? Inside the conference room, the air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Thomas ignored the tension, marching straight up to second boss Cole, grabbing his arm. My son got beaten half to death, Thomas demanded aggressively. I need you to off the guy who did it. I'm paying $1 million. Tyler dropped to his knees, crying dramatically. Uncle Cole, look what he did to me. You have to help me get payback. The Sterling family was rich in legitimate business. They could ruin someone financially. But for a hit, they needed the West Side underworld. Thomas came personally because he couldn't stand seeing his precious son hurt. Once this guy is dead, I'm making Hazel my personal toy, Tyler thought, a sick grin forming under his bandages. My life is only worth $1 million? A cold voice cut through the room. Tyler looked up, and his eyes nearly popped out of his skull. He pointed a trembling finger at me. Dad! That's him! He's the one who did this to me! Cole! Thomas barked. But Cole had already dropped to his knees, sweating profusely. Boss, I don't know these guys. I swear. What are you doing? Thomas was baffled. The notoriously ruthless Cole was terrified of this kid? I don't know you people. Cole practically screamed, desperate to sever ties. The conference room doors slammed shut. The atmosphere was a powder keg. Whoever helps me kill this kid gets $5 million. Thomas slammed his hand on the table, shouting at the room. No one moved a muscle. You think your money means anything here? I stood up slowly. Boss! Dozens of gang leaders stood up simultaneously, shouting in perfect unison. Thomas's face drained of color. His voice trembled. You're the boss? Blake drew his blade, the steel gleaming as he advanced on the father-son duo. Don't kill me! Tyler collapsed, smashing his head against the floor in a desperate bow. Boss! I was wrong. I'll never bother Hazel again. Please. Thomas, slightly more composed, wiped his sweat and forced a nervous, fawning smile. Boss, name your price. Consider it an apology from the Sterling family. I shook my head, taking the blade from Blake. I'm afraid you'd be too heartbroken losing your son. Let me do you a favor and send you both on a trip together. The blade flashed. Blood sprayed. Thomas Sterling hit the floor, permanently silenced. I walked over to the shivering Tyler and looked down at him coldly. This morning, you told me to remember your name. Yeah, I remembered it. The katana drove straight through him, pinning him to the heavy wooden door. The entire room was paralyzed with fear. Nobody dared to breathe. The Sterling family came looking for trouble and ended up scheduling an impromptu family reunion in the afterlife. I casually wiped the blood off my face with a tissue. Did everyone see that clearly? Crystal clear, the room shouted, their voices shaking. My phone rang. The caller ID said Sixth Sister Grace Lincoln, professor at City Foreign Language University. I frowned and answered. Her voice was icy. Leo, are you close with Hazel? None of your business, I replied flatly. Hazel beat up 7 members of the student council. The school is going to expel her, Grace said, her tone growing arrogant. If you apologize to Mom and Kevin, I can pull some strings to help. Grace, you really are despicable. I gripped the phone, my voice dropping to sub-zero. Don't get the wrong idea. Grace raised her voice, defensively. I'm only doing this out of respect for the old man. I'm giving you a chance. I slammed my hand on the table, laughing coldly. Keep it. I'll handle it my way. Blake, get the cars ready. We're going to the university, I roared. Blake instantly scrambled to mobilize the men. Boss, what are we going to do at a school? A brave underling asked. Exterminate some pests, I replied, my voice like winter itself. Outside the administration building of the university, Grace stood by a phone booth, holding her books, frowning as her phone beeped. The number you have dialed is switched off, she redialed, annoyed. Leo, if you just bow your head to Kevin, I can hide this from Claire and help you this one time. What is this nonsense? My recorded voice echoed in my head. Whatever, Grace scoffed to herself. If I didn't want to see you looking so pathetic, I wouldn't even bother. Keep your pity. I don't need it, I had told her. The moment I left the Lincoln house, we ceased to exist to each other. Click. Grace was still fuming when a black Range Rover sped past, splashing a massive puddle of muddy water all over her designer outfit. Before she could even scream, a convoy of identical vehicles roared past her. Are they insane? Grace shrieked, wiping mud off her face. But when she looked up, she froze. Hundreds of black Range Rovers had parked in perfect formation, completely blockading the administration building. The doors swung open simultaneously. Nearly 1,000 men in sharp black suits and sunglasses stepped out, lining up with terrifying military precision. The door to the lead car opened. I stepped out, my face pale but eyes burning with lethal intent, and strode directly toward the principal's office. Inside the principal's office, Principal Foster was casually smoking a cigarette. Standing in front of him were 7 battered student council members. Some had casts, some were holding their ribs, and 2 had their heads wrapped in bandages. Wendy, you're telling me Hazel beat all 7 of you looking like this? Foster couldn't believe it. One little girl did this much damage? Principal, she had a baton hidden in her bag. Wendy gritted her teeth. She fought like a maniac. Calm down. Foster waved his hand. I've already called the police. When they get here, you tell them she was extorting you, and when you tried to stop her, she attacked. He tapped a folder on his desk. Hazel's expulsion order will be officially published tonight. Here's $7,000 to split for medical bills. Take 2 weeks off. The 7 girls cheered, thanking him profusely. Boom! The heavy oak door to the office exploded inward, shattering into splinters. I walked in, flanked by a wall of men in black suits. Principal Foster, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Foster was shocked, then recognized me. Leo, you've got some nerve breaking into my office. He slammed his desk, trying to act tough. If you don't give me a good explanation, you're not walking out of this building on 2 legs. He reached for his phone to call security, but there was no signal. What do you think you're doing? Foster pointed a shaky finger at me. I didn't answer. I picked up the expulsion folder from his desk, crumpled it into a ball and threw it. Cancel this order. Are you joking? I am absolutely expelling her, Foster scoffed. Not only that, I'm having her arrested. She's going to rot in jail. I picked up the heavy ceramic teapot from his desk and smashed it directly over his head. Blood instantly streamed down his face. Foster staggered and collapsed onto the sofa, his ears ringing. The 7 girls screamed, backing into a corner, trembling like leaves. I'm not negotiating with you. I picked up a wooden chair and brought it down hard on his chest. A high-pitched scream echoed through the office. The 7 girls turned deathly pale, too terrified to even look. On the ruined sofa, Foster clutched his bleeding head. Sweat and blood mixed on his face. He frantically wiped it with a tissue, but his eyes burned with rage. Leo, even if Grace gets on her knees and begs, you're done. Foster tried to bluff through the pain. You think you can scare me? The cops are almost here. Let's see how cocky you are in handcuffs. I looked at him coldly. I slowly walked over, leaning both hands on his desk. I think intentional assault is a bit too light of a charge for me. Foster's heart skipped a beat. Panic set in. Pictures, I commanded. Blake stepped up and handed me a stack of photos. I flipped through them, then shoved them into my pocket. Blake then walked over to the 7 cowering girls. What do you want? Wendy, the president, tried to sound brave, her voice trembling. My family is rich. If you touch me, my dad will. Crash! I punched through the window glass, grabbed Wendy by the collar, and tossed her straight out the window. A sickening thud echoed from below. No exceptions, I said, my hands clasped behind my back. Blake, make them fly! I was wrong! Please don't kill me! The remaining 6 girls bawled, dropping to their knees. The principal told us to do it, and Hazel hit us first. She's the person I hold in the palm of my hand, I said softly. You touched her. You think you deserve to breathe? 6 more figures were rapidly ejected through the broken window. 6 heavy thuds echoed in rapid succession. They all landed in the bushes. Mostly. Foster watched the entire scene unfold, his body going completely limp on the sofa. His heart hammered so hard he thought it would explode. The 7 girls who tried to extort Hazel were now expelled, permanently. I turned back to Foster and gently patted his shoulder. Principal Foster, did you hear me clearly? Yes, loud and clear. Foster nodded frantically, his teeth chattering. I grabbed his collar and dragged him to the broken window. I am the only criminal here, and you are the only witness. If I get arrested, as long as one of the 1,000 men standing down there is still breathing, they will butcher your entire family. Foster shivered violently, a cold sweat drenching his back. He couldn't form a single word. You have 1 hour to publicly revoke Hazel's expulsion and issue an expulsion notice for those 7, I added coldly. Oh, and conveniently, I want Hazel to receive the highest merit scholarship you offer. Yes, yes, of course, Foster sobbed, completely broken. I straightened my suit and walked out. Minutes later, hundreds of Range Rovers roared to life and left the campus, restoring the school's eerie peace. 10 minutes later, police sirens wailed onto the campus. In the lead cruiser, Tracy Lincoln told her partner to park. She jumped out and rushed over to Grace, who was looking completely disheveled. "Grace, what happened to you?" Tracy gasped. "A massive convoy of cars just drove through and splashed mud all over me," Grace sighed, looking at her ruined outfit. "And I just changed." "Right. Are you here about the Hazel situation?" Grace suddenly remembered. "Yeah." Tracy narrowed her eyes. "Why? Were you planning on begging for mercy on behalf of that ungrateful brat?" Grace shook her head. "I tried to help, but he threw eldest sister's words right back in my face." "Good. Let's see how long he can act tough," Tracy sneered. "I hope he doesn't come crying to us later." Just as they were talking, a scream pierced the air. "Someone jumped! Kids jumped out the window!" Principal Foster ran out of the administration building, his face battered and bleeding, looking completely unhinged. "Principal Foster! What happened?" Grace rushed over. "The student council girls. They heard they were getting expelled, got too emotional and jumped," Foster babbled wildly. "I tried to stop them, but I got beat up." Without another word, he sprinted toward the campus gates, muttering curses at Thomas Stursling. He needed to leave the city immediately to avoid the fallout. Right at that moment, a massive dump truck came hurtling down the street, blasting through a red light. It slammed directly into Foster, sending him flying 30 feet through the air before rolling right over him. Grace froze. The books in her hands dropped into the mud. She reached up and touched her cheek. It was splattered with fresh blood. Tracy snapped back to reality. "Arrest that driver!" she screamed. The campus erupted into chaos. As a veteran cop, Tracy felt a terrible premonition. The principal leaves his office and instantly gets hit. The truck's speed was clearly premeditated murder. "Captain, we got him." 2 officers dragged over a driver who reeked of cheap booze. "Attempted murder." Tracy grabbed the driver's jaw, her voice lethal. "Who put you up to this?" "I'm drunk," the driver slurred. "Take me to jail. Lock him up," Tracy ordered, sprinting toward the administration building. As she ran, Grace doubled over and vomited violently, the shock of the gory accident finally hitting her. She passed out cold on the pavement. At the city sculpture park, I jumped out of the car. My eyes instantly locked onto Hazel's fragile silhouette, sitting on a stone bench by the lake. A sharp ache pierced my chest. "Boss, I had men keep an eye on her since she left the school," Blake whispered respectfully. "She hasn't done anything, just staring at the water. Give us a minute." I waved them off and walked over to the bench. The wind off the lake carried a biting chill. Hazel's hair was messy, and her pristine white dress was stained with blood. Some hers, mostly from those 7 girls. Her eyes were empty. "Why didn't you go to the hospital?" I sat down next to her, my voice full of ache. "Just a few scratches. I'm fine." Hazel turned and forced a smile. "Brother Leo, how did you find me?" Her voice was soft, but the exhaustion in her eyes was impossible to hide. "I asked why you didn't go to the hospital," I repeated firmly. "Hospitals cost money." Hazel looked down at her lap. "You helped us get that 400K back, but my dad's leg. Poor people like us can't afford to be fragile." She looked up, trying to keep the smile on her face. "I used to get into fights all the time. I'm used to it. People like us, if we aren't fierce, if we aren't strong, we just get crushed." She stuck her tongue out playfully. "Brother Leo, do you think I'm too violent? Not exactly the refined Lincoln lady you're used to, huh? Did I look cool winning today?" I gently took her hand, my voice low. "Why didn't you go to the hospital?" Her tough facade shattered. Tears spilled over her lashes. She threw her arms around my neck and sobbed uncontrollably. "Brother Leo, they can insult me, but they can't insult my dad. They called him useless, but he carries our whole family. I had to teach those girls a lesson. I had to show them that poor people have dignity too. We aren't just doormats for them to step on. Brother Leo, I got expelled." Her voice grew quieter, shaking with every sob. "I studied so hard to change my life, and with just one sentence, they destroyed my entire future." I patted her back gently, my heart breaking. "Is this how the poor are forced to live? I won't let anyone bully you." I wiped the tears from her cheeks, my voice incredibly soft. "Trust me." Click, clack, high heels sounded behind us. "I've been looking everywhere for you, and you're hiding here playing Romeo?" An angry voice interrupted. I didn't even need to turn around to know it was Rachel Lincoln. She was wearing a tight black dress, a tailored blouse, and her signature gold-rimmed glasses, radiating pure, arrogant energy. Eldest miss is here. Better make way. Hazel leaned back on the bench, chuckling softly. Her aura completely refused to be suppressed by Rachel's. Rachel glared at me. Leo, I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? I am to you, I replied casually. Miss Lincoln, this isn't the Lincoln Mansion, and it's certainly not your hospital. I'm not your subordinate or your patient. State your business, or stop ruining my sunset. I stood up, ready to leave. Leo, you didn't used to be like this! Rachel's voice trembled, a mix of anger and deep disappointment. Used to be? I laughed coldly. Yeah, that was before. Just because we kicked you out, you have to hold this ridiculous grudge. Rachel sneered, her voice shaking. You're so petty. We gave you over a decade of luxury, and this is how you repay us. I looked at her, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Mrs. Lincoln, do you honestly think I gave a damn about your luxury? For over 10 years, you treated me worse than a stray dog. Leo died the moment you threw me out. I grabbed Hazel's hand and turned to walk away. Stop! Rachel lunged forward, blocking my path, her pride refusing to let her lose. Do you have to be this ruthless? Is there a point to this? I asked. The tea eldest sister drinks. You made it, didn't you? Rachel extended her hand, her tone demanding. Give me the recipe, I smirked, a mocking laugh escaping my lips. Me? But I'm just a useless piece of trash. A dog begging for scraps. Are you telling me the brilliant vice president of the city hospital needs help from me? Rachel's face flushed bright red. Her fists clenched so hard her knuckles turned white. Leo, if humiliating me makes you feel better, fine, I accept it. She stared straight into my eyes. But eldest sister is being tortured by her insomnia. Can't you think of a way to help her? Rachel took a deep breath, thinking I might actually soften. If you help, maybe we can forgive you. I burst out laughing. My eyes were full of pure mockery. You really think her insomnia was just going to magically cure itself? For over a decade, I bled for your family, and did any of you ever care? Go away. Stop intruding on my life. Leo, what do you want? Rachel screamed, completely losing control. Money? Whatever you want. Just cure Claire. I'll give you everything. She dropped to her knees, grinding her teeth. Is this what you wanted? Are you satisfied now? I turned away, my voice dropping to freezing temperatures. Rachel, when I stop caring about you, whether you live or die doesn't move me an inch. I wrapped my arm around Hazel and walked away, leaving Rachel kneeling alone in the sunset, looking utterly pathetic. What else were we supposed to do? Rachel muttered to herself, tears falling freely. Mom told you to leave. Who would dare argue with her? In the distance, Hazel spoke softly. Brother Leo, are you really not going to forgive them? I smiled, ruffling her hair. There's no medicine for regret in this world. Spilled water can't be gathered back up. Besides, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have met you. Hazel giggled mischievously. By the way, who is Blake? Oh, just an old buddy from the orphanage, I lied smoothly. Hungry? Let's go get some late-night snacks. Let me call my mom and tell her I won't be home for dinner. Hazel nodded enthusiastically. Brother Leo, can I use your phone? I blinked, looking around at the empty park. You want to call her? Right now? With my phone? What are you thinking? Hazel stuck her tongue out, making a funny face, and grabbed my hand. Let's go, I'm starving. At the Lincoln Mansion, Rachel rushed through the front doors, looking exhausted. The house was eerily quiet. Victoria, their adoptive mother, wasn't around. Kevin, being out all night partying, was par for the course. The other sisters were at the hospital, because Grace had suddenly collapsed into a coma. Rachel practically sprinted into the spare room on the first floor, the room where Old Man Lincoln used to live. After he died, Claire kept it exactly as it was. No one dared touch it, though it was cleaned regularly. Rachel went straight to the bookshelf, her eyes scanning the dusty tomes. Hidden among some old paper trinkets was a tattered notebook. She grabbed it, flipped it open, and a DVD fell out. She picked up the disc, hurried to the living room, and shoved it into the DVD player. She sat on the sofa, her eyes glued to the screen. The screen flickered to life. Old Man Lincoln appeared, wearing a simple linen shirt, sitting cross-legged on his bed. He looked incredibly kind. By the time you girls see this, I'll likely be gone. The greatest treasure I'm leaving behind isn't money. It's your brother, Leo. That boy isn't good with words. He keeps everything locked inside. To cure Claire's insomnia, he personally tested experimental herbal remedies on himself. He nearly died multiple times. I had to resuscitate him. He always told me he had no real family, just me, Victoria, and the 7 of you. That's why he was willing to endure anything. Tears streamed down Rachel's face. The old man sighed, continuing, Rachel, you've always thought highly of yourself. You studied Western medicine and thought you knew better than me. But did you know? Every medical anomaly, every impossible case you couldn't solve, Leo was secretly solving them for you. When you slept, he begged me to keep it a secret so he wouldn't hurt your pride. Rachel's hands shook violently. Her heart felt like it was being smashed with a sledgehammer. Your adoptive mother is not a good person. The old man on the screen lowered his head, sounding utterly defeated. Leo was born with a congenital cold poison condition. Over the years, his lifespan has drastically deteriorated to save this family. He probably only has 1 year left to live. The screen went black. Rachel froze. Just as she was about to check the player, a loud snap echoed through the room. Victoria stood there, a cold sneer on her face, having just snapped the DVD disc in half and thrown it on the floor. Rachel, don't listen to that old fool's nonsense. He's dead, and he's still trying to ruin us, Victoria barked. Rachel looked at her adoptive mother in horror, her voice shaking. Mom, why did you destroy it? How could you? You dare question me? Victoria roared. I am your mother. He was just a stray dog. He is my brother, Rachel screamed. She grabbed her coat and sprinted out the door, tears blinding her vision. At City Hospital 1, Rachel practically sprinted into the hospital, only to find her sisters gathered outside the ICU. Eldest sister, why aren't you guys inside? Rachel asked, feeling a knot of dread in her stomach. Grace's condition deteriorated rapidly. She started vomiting blood and slipped into a coma. They're trying to resuscitate her, Tracy said grimly, her eyes full of worry. What? Rachel was stunned. She had personally checked Grace's vitals just hours ago. Everything was perfectly normal. How did it get this bad so fast? Second sister, where did you run off to? Claire was sitting on a plastic chair, holding her head, looking utterly exhausted. Her insomnia was driving her to the brink of insanity. Eldest sister. Rachel took a deep breath, swallowing hard. I need to speak with you. Alone. Claire frowned. We sisters don't keep secrets. Just say it. Rachel remained silent, looking down. Eldest sister, it's about something I can't decide on my own. Claire gritted her teeth, fighting off a migraine, and stood up. Follow me. Rachel led her into her vice president's office and locked the door. What is it, Rachel? Grace is dying in there, Claire snapped impatiently. Why the secrecy? Rachel leaned against the wall, looking completely shattered. Tears spilled over her cheeks. Eldest sister, I found a DVD in Dad's study. A DVD? Claire's brow furrowed. What was on it? Rachel choked back a sobs. Years ago, to cure your insomnia, Leo tested experimental drugs on himself. He almost died multiple times. Dad had to save his life. Claire looked like she had been shot. All the color drained from her face. My insomnia? You didn't cure it? Rachel shook her head, tears falling freely. To help you, he studied economics in secret. He sneaked into my room while I was sleeping and solved all the impossible medical cases for me. What? Claire stumbled backward, gripping a chair to stay upright. He was just a useless houseboy. How could he do all that? Do you think Dad would lie to us from beyond the grave? Rachel gritted her teeth. If I was the one who cured you, why have I been totally useless at treating your relapse? Claire stared blankly at the wall, suddenly remembering the times Leo had fallen mysteriously, critically ill. The timing matched up perfectly with the worst periods of her insomnia. Why didn't he say anything? Claire whispered. If he had just opened his mouth, even if we kicked him out, we wouldn't have been so cruel. Because he saw us as his family, and we never once treated him like a brother. Rachel covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably. From the moment we threw him out, his heart died. She shakily pointed to a teacup on her desk. Your insomnia went away because of that tea, and because of it, he almost died. Claire gripped the edge of the desk so hard her knuckles turned white. Where is the disc? Mom destroyed it. Rachel laughed bitterly, wiping her eyes. Eldest sister, do you know what else Dad said? He said Leo only has 1 year left to live. 1 year? Claire's eyes widened in horror. Her voice caught in her throat. Rachel nodded heavily. When we kicked him out, I felt a little bad. Then, because of his attitude, I got angry and disappointed. But now I realize how catastrophically wrong we were. We threw out the one person who willingly traded his life for ours. The office was dead silent. Why didn't he say anything? Claire muttered again. Rachel stood up and looked out the window. Because he knew that in our eyes, only power and profit mattered. Everything was measured in money. After a long silence, Claire walked over and squeezed Rachel's shoulder. It's not too late to fix this. In his final days, we have to do something for him. Rachel turned around, her eyes red. Are you going to tell the others? You were the one who led the charge to kick him out. Let me bear this guilt with you. Claire took a deep breath, offering a pained smile. Suddenly, the office door flew open. Valerie rushed in, panicking. Eldest sister! Second sister! Come quick, it's Grace! Claire jolted and sprinted toward the ICU. She'd already lost one sibling. She refused to lose another. At the ICU door, Dr. Wang was scribbling on a clipboard. Dr. Wang! How is my sister? Rachel demanded urgently. Vice President Lincoln, your sister has suffered from epilepsy for years. Dr. Wang pulled down his mask, looking at them in surprise. Did she never tell you? Epilepsy? The Lincoln sisters looked at each other, totally blindsided. Judging by the scans, she's had it for at least 10 years. It's been perfectly managed with some kind of highly advanced herbal medicine, Dr. Wang explained. Try to remember if she was taking anything specific. If we can find that medicine, we can wake her up. I've never seen her take medicine, Claire insisted, frowning. The 7 sisters never kept secrets from each other. That was the one rule the old man drilled into them. If Grace had epilepsy, how could she hide it? That's strange, Dr. Wang mused. The treatment method was brilliant. If she hadn't suffered a massive emotional shock today, she wouldn't have had an episode for another 6 months. Herbal medicine. Claire and Rachel exchanged a look. Both of their minds instantly snapped to one person, the brother they just banished, Leo. Could it be that Grace's epilepsy was also being managed by Leo? Normally, Claire would have found the idea absurd, but now, she couldn't help but connect the dots. Thank you, Dr. Wang. Rachel forced a polite smile, seeing him off. The hospital room fell quiet. Grace lay in bed, her eyes closed as if she were just sleeping. Claire's phone suddenly buzzed. What? It dropped again! After hanging up, Claire's face was completely black. She slumped into a chair, utterly drained. The international stock portfolio was in free fall. The last 2 days had been historically disastrous. You guys go rest, Claire rasped, sounding completely defeated. Eldest sister, what's wrong today? Valerie asked carefully. Claire couldn't hold it back anymore. I am going insane from lack of sleeps. Our sister is in a coma, my company's stock is crashing, and now I find out I personally threw out the one brother who was secretly sacrificing himself for us. Eldest sister. Grace always used to wear a little scent sachet, Valerie offered timidly. I don't know if it has anything to do with her illness. Where is the sachet? Rachel grabbed her shoulders excitedly. It was a gift from Leo for her 10th birthday. After he got kicked out, she threw it away, Valerie answered. Threw it where? Claire's eyes burned with sudden intensity. Probably in the trash can at home. Valerie shrank back, feeling slightly wronged. Go find it! Claire grabbed Valerie's face, her voice dropping into a rare, terrifying calmness. If it's the right one, you'll be saving Grace's life. Valerie wiped her tears, nodded, and sprinted out of the hospital. Rachel patted Claire's back, knowing exactly how complicated her sister felt. The brother they treated like dirt had secretly done everything for them. Meanwhile, Kevin, the real brother they welcomed back with open arms, was out partying, while his sister was in a coma, not even bothering to call. The contrast was blinding. Half an hour later, Valerie found the unemptied trash bin at the mansion. She grabbed the little sachet, gave it a sniff, and rushed back to the hospital. On Central Avenue, I was pedaling a shared rental bike, giving Hazel a ride to a local food stall. She was ecstatic today. Not only had she avoided expulsion, but she had also secured a scholarship. She was practically singing the whole way. Suddenly, a black Mercedes zoomed past us and slammed on its brakes right in front of the restaurant. I reacted instantly, swerving the bike just in time to avoid a nasty collision. Do you know how to drive? Hazel jumped off the bike, furious, yelling at the Mercedes. The doors opened. A man and a woman stepped out. The man glanced at us, sneering. What are you yelling about? I have $5 million in liability insurance. If I run you over, I'll just write a check. He whistled, eyeing Hazel up and down. Riding this piece of junk? Come take a ride in my Benz instead, sweetheart. Kevin, someone's getting jealous. The girl next to him whined playfully, clinging to his arm. You idiot! Hazel's face turned bright red with anger. You think having a few bucks makes you royalty? The girl looked up, surprised. Hazel? Hazel froze. Class rep? The man took off his sunglasses, revealing a highly punchable, smug face. He strolled over, looking at me with pure arrogance. Well, if it isn't the stray dog on a rusty bike trying to pick up chicks, what a coincidence. Yeah, quite a coincidence. The girl chimed in. Kevin, you know him? Hazel, realizing Kevin was being aggressive, secretly reached into her backpack for her trusty baton, only to grasp empty air. I had confiscated it earlier. I smiled faintly. We're a bit more than acquainted. Kevin sneered, putting his hands in his pockets. I am the real young master of the Lincoln family. He pointed at me, his voice dripping with sarcasm. And this guy? He's just a cheap knockoff. A dog that used to beg for scraps. Hazel stepped in front of me, glaring daggers. Young Master Lincoln, is it? I'd watch your mouth if I were you. Kevin raised an eyebrow, amused. Or what? Hazel smirked, looking straight at the girl clinging to him. Lucy, is he your new sugar daddy? I didn't know our school's public restroom was charging premium rates now. Lucy's face turned beet red.
Hazel, I'll kill you!
She lunged forward, raising her hand to slap Hazel. Slap. Hazel beat her to it, delivering a stinging backhand across Lucy's face. Keep talking trash, and a bloody nose will be the least of your problems. Lucy burst into tears, hugging Kevin's arm. Kevin, you have to do something. She hit me. Kevin's face darkened. He didn't actually care about Lucy, but his pride was bruised. He couldn't lose face in front of me. Miss Hazel, hanging around with Leo is a dead-end street. Kevin pulled a sleek black card from his jacket. This is a VIP card for the Cloud9 Palaces restaurant. Without this, you can't even get through the front door. Hazel scoffed, grabbing my hand and dragging me to the reception desk. She slammed a heavy gold-trimmed black card onto the counter. You just need a card, right? The receptionist looked at the card and instantly turned pale. At Cloud9, only 3 people possessed the Black Dragon Gold card. Tyron, the now-deceased West Side boss, Cole, the restaurant's owner, and the mysterious boss. Offending anyone holding this card was a guaranteed death sentence. Stop them from leaving, the manager yelled, practically sweating bullets. Dozens of burly security guards poured out, surrounding Hazel and me. What are you doing? Hazel stepped in front of me again, her face pale. Brother Leo, when the fighting starts, you run first. Seeing the aggressive guards, she suddenly regretted her impulsive flex. Ha ha ha! Kevin strolled over, laughing arrogantly. Little girl, this is second boss Cole's territory. Did you think you could just fake a VIP card and walk in? You think everyone is going to spoil you like I would? He glanced at me, then leaned in close to Hazel. Give me a kiss and I'll bail you out. He turned back to me. Hey punk, if you don't want a beatdown, tell your little girlfriend to make the smart choice. Kevin was feeling incredibly smug. The manager wiped his forehead, nervously asking Kevin, Sir, are you acquainted with these two? Kevin immediately backed away, raising his hands. No, not at all. He didn't want to get dragged into the beating, but as the tension peaked, the dozens of security guards didn't attack us. Instead, they all dropped to one knee, forming a circle around me and Hazel. Everyone was stunned, especially Kevin. Miss, we were blind. Please forgive our insolence. The manager was trembling, bowing deeply. What is happening? Hazel's mind went blank. You are the holder of the Black Dragon card. We have deeply offended you. The manager gestured, and the guards around us began slapping their own faces in unison. Hazel's eyes widened. She picked up the card from the desk. This is the Black Dragon card? Yes, ma'am, the manager squeaked. Hazel looked at me. I leaned down and whispered in her ear. If I'm guessing right, you could tell them to do jumping jacks and they wouldn't dare refuse. Really? Hazel's eyes sparkled with mischief. She cleared her throat and stood up straight. Stand up! The dozens of guards instantly snapped to attention. Kevin's face drained of color. Even Claire, the mighty CEO, only had a standard VIP card. He had never even heard of a Black Dragon card. Throw those two out! Hazel pointed directly at Kevin and Lucy. What? I'm a VIP. I'll sue you. Kevin panicked, trying to maintain his tough guy image. It was useless. 4 massive guards picked him up by his limbs and literally tossed him out the front doors. He landed face first on the pavement like a sack of potatoes. Lucy was tossed out right after him. She curled up in a corner, sobbing hysterically, hating Hazel for the sheer humiliation. She immediately flagged down a taxi and fled. The manager forced a flattering smile, bowing to Hazel. Is there anything else we can do for you, ma'am? Lead the way. I'll order first, you catch up, Hazel said to me, though still highly suspicious of how I possess such immense VIP status. She obediently followed the manager into the dining room. The moment she disappeared, my smile vanished. From the shadows across the street, Blake emerged with a dozen specialized enforcers, quickly surrounding Kevin before he could even crawl to his car. What do you want? Kevin stuttered, looking at the men in black suits. I slowly walked over, hands in my pockets, my voice calm but freezing. Seems you forgot my warning. Leo, my dad saved your life. He raised you. I am his only son. Do you have any conscience left? Kevin screamed, trying to use the old man's memory as a shield. True, the old man gave me a second life. He was like a father to me. I nodded, my tone suddenly softening. Kevin thought he was off the hook and let out a massive sigh of relief. Right, good. I'll be going then. I didn't say you could leave, I cut him off, a cruel smirk forming. I won't kill you, but that doesn't mean I can't humiliate you. Bam! I stomped my foot down hard next to his car tire and pointed at the narrow gap underneath. Crawl through. Leo, are you crazy? Kevin's face twisted in panic. He struggled, but 2 enforcers held him down. Right at that moment, Valerie burst out of the shadows screaming, Stop, Leo, let him go! I laughed coldly. I raised my hand and delivered a vicious backhand across Kevin's face. Smack. His head bounced off the car door. Blood trickled from his lip, but he was too terrified to make a sound. Leo! Valerie looked like she was losing her mind. She lunged at me, but I simply shoved her backward. You pushed me? Valerie fell to the ground, looking up at me in shock. Valerie, this has nothing to do with you, I said coldly. If you know what's good for you, stay out of it. He is my brother, the biological son of old man Lincoln. Valerie scrambled up, screaming. How can you do this to him? You ungrateful animal. I actually laughed. For over 10 years, I lived like a clown for you people. Valerie, you really think this brat is more important than me? He's innocent, Valerie choked out. We raised you for years, and it turns out we raised a backstabbing wolf. My smile widened, but it didn't reach my eyes. I pointed at the ground. Either you crawl under my legs, or he does. If neither of you do it, I'm breaking his legs right now. Kevin turned ghostly pale. He immediately screamed, Sister, you do it! You're a girl! You're going to have to get on your knees for a man eventually anyway! Just do it! How can you say that to me? Valerie stared at him, utterly betrayed. Stop stalling! Kevin barked, violently shoving her back to the ground. Crawl! Valerie fell hard, scraping her palms. Tears streamed down her face. She shakily got up onto her hands and knees, and slowly, humiliatingly, crawled between my legs. Leo, I am your sister! How dare you humiliate me like this? Valerie screamed, her eyes burning with pure hatred and confusion. Sister? I sneered. We don't share a drop of blood. And like I told you, I'm not the Leo you used to know. I leaned down, grabbed her chin, and whispered, Take your jacket off, or his hands come off. Valerie froze. She couldn't form a word. Even Blake and the enforcers were slightly taken aback. What? Didn't you just say you'd do anything for your precious brother? I mocked her mercilessly. When it's time to pay the toll, you hesitate. Hypocrite. Valerie gritted her teeth, her entire body shaking. Enough! Kevin, panicking that I might actually break his legs, slapped Valerie hard across the face. You stupid beach! Just take it off! What are you waiting for? He violently grabbed her jacket and ripped it off her shoulders. I didn't even look back. I turned around and walked into the restaurant. Kevin glared at my back, his eyes full of venom. He turned to Valerie, who was sitting on the ground, completely broken. Where's Claire? He demanded. At the hospital, Valerie answered numbly. She sat there, weeping uncontrollably. Stop crying! Kevin snapped impatiently. Take me to Claire! Hurry up! Valerie had no choice. She drove the ungrateful brat to the hospital. Half an hour later, inside Grace's hospital room. Valerie, why are you back so late? Where did you go? Claire asked coldly. Even though she was losing her mind over the stock market, she was still the strict matriarch of the family. Eldest sister, I brought the sachet. Valerie kept her head down, handing it over. Kevin immediately threw himself onto his knees. Claire, you have to help me. Leo hates me. He sent men to beat me up and threatened to cripple me. He hid his uninjured hand, displaying the scrape on his face like a war wound. I beg you, kick him out of the city. I'm terrified he's going to kill me. What? Tracy, the cop, flared up instantly. I'll go arrest him right now. Stop, Claire commanded coldly. Why did he hit you? Tell the truth, Kevin stammered. Seeing Valerie staying quiet, he decided to spice up the story. He even ripped Seventh Sister's clothes and made her crawl between his legs. He's at the Cloud9 Palace right now. If you don't believe me, go check. The room erupted in whispers. Silence, Claire snapped. She turned to Valerie. Is this true? Valerie didn't answer. She just kept her head down and cried. Tracy walked over and inspected Valerie's torn jacket. She frowned. Valerie, you use Helena perfume, right? Claire leaned in, sniffing Kevin's hand. She immediately recognized the distinct scent of Helena perfume on his skin. Eldest sister, what are you saying? Tracy stepped up, grabbing Kevin's hand. She smelled it too. As a cosmetics aficionado, she couldn't be fooled. Little brother, care to explain? Tracy glared at Kevin like a hawk. Kevin turned bright red and stammered. Leo ripped her jacket. I was just helping her button it back up, right? Oh, is that so? Tracy laughed coldly. The tear marks on this fabric were clearly made by someone pulling forcefully downward. Claire stepped forward, grabbing Valerie by the collar. Valerie, what actually happened? Valerie's eyes were bloodshot. She bit her lip. Eldest sister, it was Kevin who ripped it, but Leo did make me crawl between his legs. He's really at Cloud9. Go check if you don't believe me. Slap. Claire struck Valerie hard across the face, cutting her off. The room went dead silent. Everyone was in shock. Claire had never hit one of her sisters before, but today she had reached her breaking point. You hit me. Valerie held her cheek, tears pouring out. Eldest sister, you hit her too? Tracy hugged Valerie protectively. Calm down. Everyone bullies me outside, and now my own sisters bully me at home. I don't want to live anymore. Valerie wailed in absolute despair. Valerie, do not think your lies can fool me, Claire said with a terrifying icy calm. Leo doesn't even have money to buy a decent meal. How could he be eating at the Cloud9 Palace? Claire paused, her voice shaking slightly. Did he actually bully you? Tell the truth. Valerie avoided her gaze, whispering, no. Claire let out a heavy sigh. Get out. Go home. Lock yourself in your room, and think about what you've done for a week. You are a profound disappointment. Dad taught us to be kind and honest. Rachel pulled out her phone and called me. Leo, did Valerie come looking for you? Yeah, she begged me to mix paint for her. I told her no. The Lincoln family thinks they're royalty. They can go mix their own damn paint, I answered coldly. Loud arguing echoed through the receiver. Stop stealing my leftovers, I yelled at someone, then hung up. Claire stood up, her face ashen. Valerie, because he refused to help you, you framed him? Leo is fighting for discarded leftovers, and you claim he's dining at Cloud9? Valerie collapsed onto the floor, choking on her sobs, unable to speak. I don't have a snake for a sister, Claire spat, turning her back. Kevin, seeing the situation going south, quickly looked for an exit. Eldest sister, I've been out too long. Mom will worry. I'm going home, Valerie cried until she nearly passed out. Eldest sister, you're humiliating me. I'll just die to prove my innocence. She broke free from Tracy's grip and lunged toward the window. Rachel was faster, tackling her away from the glass. Valerie slammed hard into Rachel's chest. Eldest sister, you were a bit harsh today, Tracy whispered. Even with your insomnia, you shouldn't have pushed her to jump. If she had been treated the way Leo was treated, she would have died 100 times over by now, Claire replied, her voice sharper than a scalpel. That sentence made Tracy flinch. She felt something was incredibly wrong. Claire was constantly defending Leo now, despite hating him the most in the past. Claire looked down at Valerie. I wronged you about the clothes. Kevin ripped them, but did Leo really make you crawl? Yes, Valerie cried, feeling utterly wronged. And I wasn't lying. He really is at Cloud9. You can go look. I believe you, Tracy interjected. I actually heard someone call him boss today. An employee greeted him. Are you sure? Tracy asked. Positive, Valerie insisted. Tracy frowned. The boss is the new kingpin of the West Side. Word is he wiped out Tyron's gang and took over Cloud9. Valerie was stunned. She thought she was just clearing her name, but the truth was far more complicated.
Ina!
Claire roared, her eyes full of utter disappointment. Leo is senseless fighting for scraps of food, and you're telling me he's a mafia boss dining at a luxury palace? Do you think I'm an idiot? If you don't believe me, I'll die to prove it, Valerie gritted her teeth. You don't need to die. Claire looked at Rachel. Take care of Grace. Claire grabbed her purse and marched out. Tracy and Valerie hurried after her. At the Cloud9 Palace, Blake stood on a chair, triumphantly holding up a plate of stir-fried potatoes. Ha ha ha, these leftovers are mine, I smiled faintly, sipping water. Blake, next time we play games, you're not allowed to join, Hazel laughed. To lighten the mood, she had initiated a dare. Whoever lost had to eat the remaining scraps on the table. Oh, my dad's calling. Hazel checked her phone. We should head back. All right, I stood up, grabbing a few packed takeout boxes for Uncle Harry. Suddenly, the VIP room doors swung open. Claire, Tracy, and Valerie marched in. The atmosphere instantly froze. Dozens of intimidating men in black suits turned their deadly glares onto the uninvited guests. Valerie swallowed hard, stammering, Where is Leo? I swear I heard people calling him boss and saw him come in here. But there was no sign of me or Hazel. We had slipped out the back. What do you want? Blake wiped grease off his mouth, glaring at the women. Claire forced a polite smile. Hello, I am Claire Lincoln of Lincoln International. Is there anyone here named Leo? Hearing Claire Lincoln, Blake's eyes flashed with anger. This was the woman who kicked the boss out. Nobody here by that name. Blake waved his hand dismissively. Where do these crazy women come from, ruining our dinner? Get lost. The doors slammed shut in their faces. What are you doing? The restaurant security team immediately surrounded the three sisters. What's the problem? The head of security stepped up, looking annoyed. CEO Lincoln, please cooperate. Don't make this difficult for us, the guard warned. He's the one, Valerie pointed at the guard. I saw you kneeling in front of Leo. The guard's face didn't change. You must have mistaken me for someone else. His voice was entirely monotone. You're lying, Valerie tried to argue, but Claire cut her off. Enough. Haven't we embarrassed ourselves enough? Claire pulled out a few $100 bills, handed them to the guard, and forced a smile. Buy the boys some late-night snacks. Thank you, CEO Lincoln, the guard sneered, pocketing the cash. Outside the restaurant, Claire glared at Valerie, grinding her teeth. Anything else to say? Valerie opened her mouth, but had no explanation. Claire got into the driver's seat. Tracy, drive to Harry's apartment. I want Valerie to see exactly how Leo is living. At Harry's apartment, we had brought back the packed leftovers. Uncle Harry and Aunt Lily looked at the spread with incredibly complicated expressions. Hazel, did you spend Leo's money on this? Harry put down his chopsticks, looking serious. Uncle Harry, these only cost about $50, I quickly lied. Hazel got a scholarship and wanted to treat you. Really? Harry's eyes went wide. Yes, I just got the notice. Hazel smiled and nodded. That's wonderful! The ancestors are looking out for us! Harry wiped a tear away, pulling out a hidden bottle of cheap liquor. We have to celebrate tonight. As everyone was laughing, Hazel yelled from her bedroom. Dad, where's my teddy bear? I threw it out! The apartment is too small, and that thing was falling apart, Harry yelled back. You threw it where? Hazel sprinted out of the room, her eyes red, looking frantic. In the dumpster downstairs, Harry flinched. It was ripped, why do you need it? Hazel didn't answer, she bolted down the stairs. I quickly followed. Down by the dumpsters, Hazel stood frozen, looking at the massive pile of trash. I sighed. Let me handle this. I rolled up my sleeves and started digging through the garbage. Brother Leo, it's too dirty. Hazel panicked. If it's important to you, I'll find it no matter where it is. I smiled gently. Oh, by the way, report to my friend's company tomorrow. You lost the bet, remember? Hazel blinked. I think I'll pass. Don't worry. With your skills, they're lucky to have you as an intern. I laughed, continuing to dig. Meanwhile, Claire's Mercedes pulled up to the curb. She watched me digging through the garbage under a dim streetlight. Tears instantly poured down her face. Valerie, if you can't explain yourself, leave the Lincoln family, just like Leo did, Claire said coldly. Valerie had no excuses left. She shouldn't have meddled. This is karma, she thought. Say what you want, but Leo taking care of people, it's actually really sweet, Tracy muttered from the passenger seat. He's got skills and he's a little romantic, too. Tracy, what are you saying? Claire wiped her tears, staring at her sister. Haha, I just realized Leo would make a great boyfriend, Tracy sighed. Too bad it's impossible now. He is your brother. Claire's voice pitched up in anger. We don't share blood, Tracy shrugged. I thought we'd keep the wealth in the family. Pity you kicked him out. Claire was so furious she couldn't speak. She turned to Valerie. What are you going to do? Valerie looked up, her eyes determined. If I prove I wasn't lying, will you apologize to me? Of course, Claire said. I won't return to the Lincoln house until my name is cleared. Valerie pushed the car door open. If Leo can survive outside, so can I. She slammed the door and didn't look. Eldest sister, what now? Tracy asked, nursing a headache. She's an adult. I respect her decision. Claire looked out the window. Drive us home. 3 hours later, I found the teddy bear, wrapped in a plastic bag at the bottom of the dumpster. Is this it? I carefully handed it to Hazel. She took it and gently kissed its head. Thank you, Brother Leo. Looking at the old faded bear, I froze. This was the birthday gift I bought her over a decade ago. She had kept it all this time. Meanwhile, the Lincoln family treated everything I did like literal garbage. The irony was hilarious. Recognize it? Hazel asked with a soft smile. Yeah, I nodded, feeling a rush of warmth. Suddenly, Valerie's voice broke the peaceful moment. Leo, I turned around. She was standing 10 yards away, tears streaming down her face. Suddenly, she dropped to her knees. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have bothered you. Please forgive me. What is she playing at now? Another one of Kevin's traps? I sneered inwardly. I bled to mix your paints for 7 years, and the one time I say no, you frame me? I looked at her with pure disgust. You are dirtier than this pile of garbage. Let's go, Hazel. Leo, Valerie sobbed, crawling forward. Why won't you just admit you're the boss? Are you scared? Are you even a man? Fine, I'll admit it. I stopped, looking at her deadpan. I am the boss, satisfied? Say it again. Valerie excitedly pulled out her phone. I am the boss, I repeated monotonously. Happy? Else sister? Did you hear that? Valerie screamed into her phone, but the only sound from the speaker was an automated voice. The number you have dialed is currently switched off. The phone slipped from her hand and shattered on the concrete. Valerie sat in the dirt, staring into space, then broke down in hysterical tears. I glanced at her, grabbed Hazel's hand, and walked away without looking back. After a cold shower, Hazel and I stood on the balcony. Looking down, Valerie was still sitting by the dumpsters, crying her eyes out. She's been crying for 10 minutes straight, Hazel noted, checking her watch. Kinda pathetic. I leaned on the railing, shaking my head. She used to be my sister. It's hard to watch. Yeah, must be tough being a girl all alone out there, Hazel agreed. Brother Leo has a soft heart. I can't stand seeing people suffer. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Hello? Psychiatric Control Center? There's a woman outside the beautiful view apartments who won't stop crying. Highly unstable. Please hurry, she might do something extreme. I hung up to find Hazel staring at me in total shock. What? Did I do something wrong? I asked innocently. Brother Leo, I absolutely love you, Hazel burst out laughing, standing on her tiptoes to kiss my cheek. 10 minutes later, a white van pulled up. What are you doing? Let me go. My sister is Claire Lincoln, Valerie shrieked as two burly orderlies grabbed her. Yes, let's get you home, the doctor smiled reassuringly. Valerie's eyes lit up. Really? Eldest sister forgave me? CEO Lincoln told us to come pick you up. Get in. The doctor nodded. Valerie eagerly hopped into the van, only to realize the back seats had iron bars, and the doors locked from the outside. The doctor smirked. If you're Claire Lincoln, then I'm the President of the United States. The van sped off toward the city psychiatric ward. At the city hospital, Grace was sleeping. Tracy and the others had gone to work. Only Rachel and Claire remained in the hallway. Eldest sister, I have no choice but to keep giving you those sleeping pills, Rachel said sadly. You've sacrificed too much for this family. It's fine, Claire nodded. She knew if she didn't sleep, she could literally drop dead from exhaustion. After a long silence, Claire asked, Rachel, do you really think Leo slapped Kevin just because he was angry? Rachel hesitated. Eldest sister, I think there's more to it. If you hadn't told me about the DVD, I would have thought Leo was framing him today. Claire sighed. Ever since I found out Valerie and Kevin framed him with that clothing stunt, I feel like we've been played this whole time. Eldest sister, if we talk now, it's too late, Rachel sighed. Who knew Leo suffered so much while we completely misunderstood him, time and time again? Claire choked up. Why didn't he defend himself? Why didn't he explain? Rachel laughed bitterly. If he explained, would you have believed him? After a long pause, Claire looked up. Rachel, he won't accept my apologies. What should I do? Rachel patted her hand. He won't accept it, but you can start with Hazel. Her family is broke and needs money. Lincoln International is hiring. Give her a top-tier position. High salary, fast promotion. Maybe Leo will forgive us if we make her happy. Okay, Claire nodded. Do it. Just then, Rachel's phone rang. She answered, and her expression turned incredibly strange. Valerie got thrown into a psych ward. They want us to come pick her up. Claire's face didn't change. Let her stay there and cool off for 7 days. Consider it a punishment. 7 days? Rachel hesitated. Isn't that a bit cruel? She hasn't suffered nearly as much as Leo did. My decision is final, Claire said coldly. The next morning, job fair at the Foreign Language University. Hazel stood in the hallway of the lecture building, wearing a crisp white blouse and a black blazer. Did you hear? Lincoln International is recruiting. 10 spots. Starting salary $20K. An excited voice echoed through the hall. Ladies, I got the job. Lucy held up a trilateral contract, strutting over to Hazel with a smug grin. See? I don't need a sugar daddy to be better than you. Just then, a deep voice interrupted. Miss Lucy, are you in the same class as a Miss Hazel? Lucy turned around, her smug expression instantly morphing into panic. MIM manager Ricky? Ricky, wearing a sharp suit, looked around. Who is Hazel? Dozens of eyes locked onto Hazel. Everyone knew she and Lucy were bitter rivals. Lucy had just been hired as an HR assistant at Lincoln International. So why was the HR manager looking for Hazel? That's me. Can I help you? Hazel asked calmly. But at the mention of Lincoln International, her voice turned frosty. Lucy seized the opportunity. Hazel, how dare you speak to manager Ricky like that? Have some respect. How I speak is none of your business, Hazel scoffed. Oh, haven't even started your first day, and you're already kissing the boss's boots? Lucy turned green with embarrassment. Manager Ricky, if you hire her, make sure you get her a full medical checkup. I wouldn't want the male employees catching whatever diseases she's carrying. Lucy, I will rip your mouth off. Hazel lunged forward, ready to swing. Stop! Ricky quickly intervened, silencing the hall. Miss Hazel, would you be interested in joining Lincoln International? Ricky asked, his tone incredibly respectful and sincere. Starting salary is $30K a month, and you'll be placed on the fast-track management training program. The entire hall gasped. 30K starting salary? Lucy had just bragged about getting 8K. Why was Hazel's getting nearly 4 times as much? This is Claire Lincoln's doing, Hazel muttered, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. How dare you call CEO Lincoln by her first name? Lucy shrieked. Miss Lucy, this was entirely the HR department's decision, Ricky said sternly. In fact, you were the one who recommended Miss Hazel, saying she was an outstanding candidate. Isn't that right? Ricky stared at Lucy, his eyes conveying a very clear threat. Lucy's brain short-circuited. Recommend Hazel? They were mortal enemies. but Ricky was asking her in front of the entire crowd. She had no choice but to grit her teeth and nod. "Oh, is that so?" Hazel smiled, playing along. "Sister Lucy, what exactly did you say about me?" "Miss Lucy, please repeat what you told me," Ricky ordered coldly. "I didn't quite hear it the first time." Lucy took a deep breath, her hands shaking. "Hazel is beautiful, top of her class, no scandals, has a full scholarship, one of the best students in the school. And?" Hazel leaned in, cupping her ear. I am inferior to you," Lucy mumbled, her face pale. The crowd erupted in laughter. Lucy was shaking with rage but didn't dare say another word. "Miss Hazel, please consider the offer," Ricky pressed. "Lincoln International is a great place to build a career." "I'm sorry," Hazel replied coldly. "I have high standards for my employers. From what I hear, some people get into your company by sleeping with Claire Lincoln's brother." The hall fell dead silent. Ricky's face turned pitch black. He grabbed Lucy's employment contract and ripped it into pieces. "Lincoln International does not tolerate nepotism or inappropriate relations." "Ricky, you bastard!" Lucy went completely insane, lunging at him. "This morning in the bathroom, you slept with me and promised me this job. You couldn't even last a minute, and now you want to play the moral high ground?" Total chaos broke out. Hazel smirked and turned to leave, but someone blocked her path. Tracy Lincoln, standing with her hands in her pockets, looked at her coldly. "We need to talk." "About what?" Hazel frowned. She knew Tracy had a hot temper, but she hadn't done anything illegal. "Let's talk over there," Tracy pointed to her car. "If you have something to say it here." Hazel glared at her with open hostility. Tracy shrugged. "Fine, how much money will it take for Leo to come back and brew tea for Claire?" Hazel froze, then let out a mocking laugh. "Money? You Lincolns only ever talk about money. You really are cut from the same cloth as Kevin." Tracy ignored the insult. "Don't reject the offer so fast. As long as the request isn't completely unreasonable, we'll agree to it." "Do you really want Leo digging through dumpsters for the rest of his life? If not for yourself, think about your family. Think about Leo." Hazel scoffed. "Right now, I'm just glad you kicked him out." She deliberately bumped Tracy's shoulder as she walked past her. Tracy ground her teeth in frustration. She was about to chase after her when a deep engine roar echoed through the street. A dozen black Range Rovers pulled up, completely blocking the school gates. A group of men in black suits stepped out of the lead car and walked straight toward Hazel. "Miss Hazel, we are from the Black Gold Syndicate. Our chairman invites you for a meeting." "Black Gold Syndicate?" Hazel frowned. She pulled out her phone and called me. "Brother Leo, is Black Gold the company you mentioned yesterday?" "Yeah," I answered. "I need you to do me a favor. Think of it as repaying the debt. My guys are a bit rough around the edges. They need an educated brain like yours to manage things." "Okay," Hazel nodded at the men. "Let's go." She assumed Black Gold was just another corporate recruiting firm. As she was getting into the car, Ricky ran over, his face covered in scratch marks. "Miss Hazel, are you sure you won't reconsider Lincoln International?" Before he could finish, a Black Gold bodyguard slapped him so hard he spun around. The convoy of Range Rovers sped off. They arrived at a towering, magnificent skyscraper. Hundreds of men in black suits were lined up perfectly. A lieutenant opened the car door. "Miss Hazel, welcome to the Black Gold Syndicate." Hundreds of fireworks shot into the sky. Confetti rained down everywhere. Hazel was stunned. She hadn't expected this kind of reception. "Don't worry, it's not for you," the lieutenant quickly explained. "We're welcoming our new chairman." Hazel sighed in relief. She patted her chest, walked down the red carpet, and cautiously entered the building. From a distance, Tracy watched the entire spectacle from her car, her jaw dropping. "Hazel works for the boss now?" Tracy couldn't believe it. That kid is hiding some deep secrets. She immediately ordered her subordinates, "Keep a close eye on the top floor of the Black Gold building." Inside a private dining room, a dozen of the city's wealthiest businessmen were gathered around a massive hot pot table. I sat at the head of the table, tapping my fingers. "Gentlemen, I want you to hand over all of Lincoln International's supply contracts to me. I will buy them from you at a 10% premium." The businessmen looked at each other in shock. "Mr. Leo, that puts us in a very difficult position," one man spoke up. "Everyone knows CEO Lincoln's temper. The breach of contract penalties alone would be massive." "Exactly. Lincoln International is an absolute powerhouse. Pulling a stunt like this, it won't end well," another agreed. I laughed mockingly, raising my glass. "So, you're terrified of Claire Lincoln, but you aren't afraid of me?" The tension in the room spiked. "When I host a dinner, there are only two types." I held up two fingers. "A celebration banquet, or a last supper." I pulled a gun from my jacket and walked over to the first man who had spoken. Just then, my phone rang. I raised an eyebrow and answered it. Leo, get away from Hazel immediately. Claire's panicked voice screamed through the speaker. He's the boss of the West Side. Hazel is with the boss. If she's with the boss, then who am I muttered, chuckling darkly before hanging up. Are you insane? The businessman Marcus Long yelled. I ignored him, racking the slide of the pistol, and pointed it at Marcus's head. Boss, what are you doing? Marcus panicked. Playing a game, I smiled, grabbing an apple and placing it on his head. What do you mean? Bong! The bullet shattered the apple into pieces. Marcus went deathly pale, collapsing back into his chair. A dark stain spread across his trousers. Leo, I'm calling the cops! Marcus shrieked, totally losing his mind. You're threatening me? I asked calmly. Damn right I'm threatening you, I nodded. Yeah, I am. I swept my gaze over the room. Marcus was trembling with rage. You want to play tough guy? When I built my empire from nothing, you were still a fetus. The other businessmen muttered in agreement. Yeah, don't push us around. I didn't even blink. I signaled Blake, who handed me a medical diagnosis report. I tossed it onto the table in front of Marcus. Read it. Marcus glanced at it, and the remaining color drained from his face. Patient, Leo. Diagnosis, terminal cancer. Estimated time remaining, less than 1 month. It had the official stamp of the city hospital. Today I came here alone, I said softly, picking up my phone, dialing 911, and putting it on speaker. Then, I pressed the gun back against Marcus's forehead. But I'm more than happy to drag every single one of you down to hell with me. The room was so quiet you could hear the sweat dripping off Marcus's chin. 911, what is your emergency? The operator's voice echoed from the phone. Marcus panicked, snatching the phone and ending the call. Sorry, kid, playing with the phone! My mistake! I don't have much time left, and I have zero patience. I wiped a drop of blood from the corner of my mouth. You thought the diagnosis was fake, but this bullet is very real. I pulled out a revolver, loaded a single bullet, spun the cylinder, put it to my own head, and pulled the trigger 6 times in rapid succession. Click, 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 click. He's a lunatic! Marcus gasped, collapsing out of his chair. The other businessmen were trembling in terror. A man with nothing to lose is the most dangerous creature on earth. You have 2 choices, I said calmly. Sign the contracts, or one of us is leaving this room in a body bag. Marcus completely broke down. He grabbed a pen with shaking hands and signed the contract, pressing his thumbprint onto it. Seeing the strongest among them fold, the others didn't dare resist. They quickly signed their names. Thank you for your cooperation. I tossed the contracts to Blake. I aimed the gun at the ceiling chandelier and fired. Crash! Glass rained down. A few businessmen screamed and fainted. Remember, what happened today stays in this room, I said softly. Otherwise, you handle the consequences. The businessmen nodded frantically and scrambled out of the black gold building, like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Boss, Claire Lincoln is downstairs. She's demanding to see Miss Hazel, Blake whispered. Claire Lincoln? I smirked. Let her up. Let's see if she can get past Hazel. Down in the lobby. Claire was pacing frantically, trying my number over and over, but it wouldn't connect. Just then she saw Marcus and the other suppliers stumbling out of the elevators, looking like they had seen a ghost. Marcus, CEO Zhao, what are you doing here? Claire asked, confused. Oh, CEO Lincoln, just having a meal. We'll talk tomorrow. Marcus forced a terrified smile and practically ran out the door. The others muttered rushed greetings and fled. CEO Lincoln, I'll take you to see Miss Hazel. A receptionist smiled politely, guiding her to the elevator. Who exactly is she? Claire couldn't help but ask. Miss Hazel is the general manager of the Black Gold Syndicate, the receptionist replied smoothly. Claire's heart sank. She had a terrible feeling about this. They reached the 11th floor. The receptionist knocked on a set of double doors. Come in, Hazel's cold voice called out. Claire pushed the doors open and walked in, her eyes wide with disbelief. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Hazel was sitting behind a massive mahogany desk, looking over some files, her expression completely neutral. The office was incredibly luxurious, easily dwarfing Claire's own CEO suite at Lincoln International. General Manager Hazel, you hid your identity very well, Claire said, walking up to the desk. Initially she had been skeptical, but seeing this office confirmed her fears. There were only a handful of offices like this in the entire city. Me? Hiding? Hazel glanced around the spacious office, then smirked. I think you're just blind. Claire stiffened. She realized Hazel was still holding a massive grudge over Leo being kicked out. I won't deny that I made a mistake. Admitting you're blind. Good for you, Hazel mocked. I admit my mistakes. Claire leaned on the desk, staring daggers at her. But you're using Leo, aren't you? Someone with your background. There's no way you fit into this world. The only explanation is that you're manipulating him. Hazel froze, then burst into laughter. Manipulating him? Think whatever you want. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of an explanation. Claire stood up abruptly and stormed out of the office. After she left, a secretary walked in. Miss Hazel, do you need anything else? No, I'm good. Hazel blushed slightly. Are all the employee offices this big? Oh yes, Black Gold values its employees above all else. This is just a standard office. The secretary smiled and left. Hazel sat behind the massive desk, totally confused. Is there really a company that treats its employees this well? Downstairs, Claire got back into her car, her face pale. She called Tracy. Tracy, go to Harry's apartment right now. See if they're hiding anything. I still refuse to believe Hazel is the real power behind the boss. She hung up, leaning back in her seat, her chest heaving. The long-term side effects of the sleeping pills were starting to kick in. She closed her eyes, trying to force herself to stay calm. At the Beautiful View Apartments, Tracy stood outside Harry's door. This was her third time here. The first time she fought with Leo. The second time, she saw him digging through the trash. Knock, knock. Harry opened the door. Seeing Tracy, he immediately tried to slam it shut. Uncle Harry, it's me. Tracy held the door, trying to sound patient. Last time was a misunderstanding. I'm here to apologize. After a moment, Lily opened the door wider, smiling kindly. Come in, Tracy. Tracy walked in, glancing around. The apartment was still cramped, the furniture was old, and they clearly lived paycheck to paycheck. But then her eyes fell on the dining table. Black abalone, Australian lobster. These were the leftovers Hazel had brought back. Did Hazel buy this? Harry said casually. We poor folks don't really care about presentation. Tracy's heart hammered against her ribs. How could Hazel, a broke college student, afford this kind of luxury? Her suspicions were confirmed. Leaving the apartment, Tracy immediately called Claire, but there was no answer. Soon after, a notification popped up in the Lincoln Sisters group chat. Claire Lincoln was in a car accident. Tracy panicked. She immediately ordered her team to track my phone's GPS location. Inside a VIP room at the Imperial Bar, I sat alone on a leather sofa. On the table in front of me was a glass filled with a heavy dose of a powerful aphrodisiac. Since getting kicked out by the Lincolns, I had learned one absolute truth. In this world, you can only rely on yourself. If you give up, you might as well just lie down and die. Before the old man died, he left me Harry's address, hinting at a secret. Hazel possessed an extreme yang constitution, while I possessed extreme yin. We couldn't balance each other out, but the old man had researched my cold poison for years and left behind a bizarre treatment method, like the glass in front of me. For a normal person, it was a heavy aphrodisiac. For me, it was life-saving medicine. Whenever the cold poison pain became unbearable, the old man made me drink this to induce heavy sweating and temporarily suppress the venom. The side effects were obvious, but I didn't have a choice. Suddenly, the VIP room door burst open. Valerie, wearing a skimpy gold slip dress, stormed into the room. Her face was flushed red with anger. Did you call the psych ward and have me locked up? I did, I admitted calmly. But you really don't look like much of a lady right now. A lady? Valerie exploded. You have the nerve to mention that? I used to be an elegant artist. Now my entire family thinks I'm a joke because of you. Claire got into a car accident because of you. You ungrateful snake. I closed my eyes, letting her vent. You played the victim. You manipulated Claire. You made me the villain of the family, Valerie screamed. We raised you for a decade and this is what we get. I told you. Our ties are cut, I replied coldly. Valerie gritted her teeth, looking like she was swallowing a golf ball. Finally, she dropped to her knees, her eyes pleading. Fine, we can settle our scores later. But Claire's insomnia is killing her, and now she's in the hospital from a crash. Do you really not care? Is she dead yet? I asked flatly. You! Valerie pointed at me, trembling with rage. Leo, that's your sister. How can you wish her dead? I smirked. Not dead yet? Shame. I was going to chip in for the funeral wreath and grab a free meal. Yo animal! Valerie lost her mind. You absolute psycho. Are you done? I asked, bored. I'll curse you until the day I die. Valerie's throat was dry from screaming. She grabbed the glass of medicine on the table and downed it in one gulp. She wiped her mouth, glaring at me. Leo, what is it going to take for you to save Claire? Valerie, I suggest you go home and lock your door. I looked at her with a hint of pity. Otherwise, you're going to embarrass yourself. What are you? Valerie started, but suddenly stopped. She felt a bizarre heat spreading through her chest. Her cheeks flushed dark crimson, and her breathing grew heavy. A few seconds later, her eyes widened in horror. You drugged the water? You drugged yourself, I corrected her with a cold smile. Valerie stumbled, leaning against the sofa, trying desperately to fight off the overwhelming heat surging through her veins. Suddenly, she lunged forward, grabbing my shirt. "Leo, if you save Claire, tonight I'll do whatever you want." "Valerie, get off me." I shoved her away. "Honestly, you're not exactly my type." Valerie was furious, her mind clouded by the drug. She lunged at me again, wrapping her arms around me. "Who do you think you are? Guys line up to Paris just to look at me. You dare reject me?" Bong! The door was kicked open again. Tracy stood in the doorway, her face pale, radiating murderous intent. "Leo, you animal!" She stared in horror at the scene. Valerie, known for being pure and innocent, was practically throwing herself at me in a skimpy dress, her straps slipping off her shoulders. "Are you even human?" Tracy screamed, raising her hand to slap me. Smack! I caught her wrist before it even got close. "What are you doing? Looking to join in?" I asked, my heart pounding slightly, masking my surprise. "Don't play games with me!" Tracy ripped her hand away. "Take your embarrassing sister to the hospital." I shoved her away coldly. "When she sobers up, ask her what actually happened." You're not a man!" Valerie shrieked, totally out of her mind. Tracy had to restrain her. "Valerie, put your clothes back on." Tracy was panicking. The most important thing was to get Valerie out of there and figure out what Leo had done to her. "Let go of me, Tracy! Stop acting so pure," Valerie babbled deliriously. "I know you used to peek at Leo when he was in the shower. You're the biggest pervert of us all." I stopped dead in my tracks, turning to look at Tracy in total disbelief. "What are you looking at? She's delirious." Tracy's face turned bright tomato red. "Who would ever want to peek at you? Keep your drama away from me." I slammed the door and walked out of the bar. "You bastard!" Tracy stomped her foot in rage. "You think you're untouchable because you clung to Hazel? Just wait!" She turned her frustration to Valerie. "You always find a way to make the biggest messes." At the Black Gold Syndicate, Hazel finished her first day of work and happily skipped out of the building. As she was crossing the street, a black sedan suddenly accelerated, speeding directly toward her. Hazel's eyes went wide. She tried to dodge, but the car was moving too fast. Crash! A massive Range Rover T-boned the black sedan, sending it spinning across the intersection. Hazel's heart hammered against her ribs. Her legs turned to jelly as she scrambled onto the sidewalk. Blake hopped out of the Range Rover, glaring at the wrecked sedan. Still breathing in there, he dragged the bleeding driver out and tossed him into the trunk of the SUV. "Boss, someone tried to run over Miss Hazel." Blake spoke into his earpiece. "If you have time, come down to the basement. Someone dares to touch my people. They must be tired of living." In the underground bunker of the Black Gold building, the bloody driver was strapped to a metal chair. Rows of men in black suits stood in silence, the air freezing cold. I walked in and stood in front of the driver. "Who sent you?" The driver reeked of alcohol. "No one," he wheezed. "I was drunk, looking at my phone, an accident." "I hate liars." I stared at him. "I'm not lying. I swear, I'm just drunk." The driver avoided my eyes. "Let him go," I ordered. "Boss?" Blake was confused, but quickly untied the ropes. The driver wept with joy. Thank you so much." He stood up to leave. Whack! A steel pipe slammed directly into his kneecap. The driver shrieked and collapsed. "I hate people who think they can play me," I said, dropping the pipe. "Bring her in." A side door opened. A woman was dragged in, trembling uncontrollably. My wife. The driver panicked, trying to crawl toward her, but his shattered knee kept him grounded. "Your wife has terminal cancer. She has maybe a month to live." I crouched down, looking him in the eye. "And you decided to use that time to try and murder a 20-year-old girl?" I stood back up, my voice turning to ice. "You also have a son, don't you?" The driver's eyes filled with absolute terror. "It was Kevin Lincoln. He paid me. He even told me to buy arsenic. Please, leave my son out of this." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "Everything you just told me, you're going to repeat to the cops?" Yes, I will." The driver nodded frantically. 911, what is your emergency?" The operator answered. "I want to report Kevin Lincoln for contract murder." The driver screamed into the phone. I walked outside. Looking up at the sunset, my mind snagged on one specific detail the driver had mentioned. Arsenic. Kevin had ordered him to buy arsenic. "Boss, do you mean?" Blake realized it at the same time. "Go dig up the old man's grave," I ordered, my heart sinking into an abyss. Old man Lincoln had always been incredibly healthy, a master of holistic medicine. Why did he die so suddenly? There had to be a reason. At the city hospital, Claire sat on a bed, a bandage wrapped around her head, slowly eating porridge spoon-fed by Rachel. Across the room, Grace was still comatose, receiving IV nutrition. On the other side, Valerie was lying in bed, drenched in sweat, tossing and turning in a half-delirious state. "Leo, you can't handle me?" Valerie mumbled in her sleep. Are you even a man? Let's see who gives up first. Her erratic mumbling made everyone else in the room blush furiously. That bastard, be gentle. You're hurting me. Valerie's voice grew quieter. The room turned as red as a tomato farm. Nobody expected the innocent seventh sister to have such a wild subconscious. Eldest sister, and you told me I was the pervert. Tracy coughed awkwardly, trying to break the tension. Shut up, Claire snapped, her face flushed. Shove a bun in her mouth to keep her quiet. Eldest sister, are you trying to convince yourself? Tracy teased. Before she could continue, her phone rang. What? Say that again. Tracy's expression instantly changed to pure horror. Are you absolutely sure? Yes, he's my brother. You must have made a mistake. She listened for a moment longer, then the line went dead. Tracy, what's wrong? Claire wiped her mouth, feeling a spike of anxiety. Did something happen to Leo? Her heart tightened. She kept having nightmares about Leo looking battered and broken. After learning a fraction of the truth, she was drowning in regret, but couldn't bring herself to confess everything to her sisters. If they knew the truth about Kevin, it would destroy the family. Eldest sister, why do you keep asking about Leo? Tracy looked at her, bewildered. You almost died in a car crash, and he didn't even call. Why do you care about that backstabbing stray dog? Just tell me what the call was about. Claire snapped, standing up, almost losing her balance. Our brother is in trouble, Tracy said, looking at her phone. Which brother? Claire was so stressed her brain couldn't process the words. Eldest sister, we only have one brother, Tracy shouted. Kevin is involved in a murder-for-hire case. He's being investigated. A murder case. Claire gripped the IV stand to stay upright. What happened? You're a cop, do something. The investigation team just called. They're already at our house. Tracy was pacing like a cat on a hot tin roof. Eldest sister, what do we do? I'll go with you. It has to be a misunderstanding. Claire ripped the IV out of her arm. Rachel, watch Grace and Valerie. I'll call you if there's news. In the hospital bed, Grace, who had been completely silent, let out a bitter laugh. Second sister, have you noticed that ever since Leo left, our family has been falling apart? Rachel avoided her gaze. Grace, don't say that. If Mom or Kevin hears you, they'll be furious. Eldest sister definitely knows something she isn't telling us. Grace looked deeply into Rachel's eyes. Second sister, don't you see it too? Just rest. Rachel turned away, unable to face her. Outside the Lincoln mansion, 3 police cruisers were parked out front. Several officers were engaged in a shouting match with Victoria. I am warning you, no one steps foot in my house. Victoria shrieked like a banshee. My third daughter is a police captain. You want to lose your jobs? I'll make one phone call and you're all suspended. She clutched her chest theatrically. I have a heart condition. If you scare me to death, my lawyers will bury you. The officers exchanged tired glances and looked toward a middle-aged man sitting in the lead car. Chief Gao stepped out of the car and walked up to Victoria. Ma'am, your son is implicated in an attempted murder. This is a search warrant. Please cooperate. I don't care about your stupid paper. Victoria sat down on the pavement, crossing her arms. If you want to arrest him, you'll have to step over my dead body. If that's how you want to play it, we won't be polite, Chief Gao signaled his men. Arrest him. Stop! Victoria jumped up. I'm calling my daughter right now. You'll be sorry. Ma'am, you need to respect the law. Chief Gao frowned. No matter who your daughter is, she's a cop first. She has to follow the rules. Understood? Just then, a Maserati screeched to a halt in front of the house. Claire and Tracy rushed out. Mom, what's going on? Claire asked, her heart sinking when she saw the police tape. Chief Gao? Tracy saw her boss and instantly deflated. Captain Lincoln, take 2 days off, Chief Gao said firmly. Execute the arrest warrant. Use force if necessary. What are you doing? Victoria stomped her feet in rage. Mom, let's figure this out first. Don't make a scene. Tracy quickly pulled her back. You useless girl. Victoria slapped Tracy across the face. You're just going to watch them arrest your father's only son? How will you face your father in the afterlife? Without waiting for an answer, Victoria stormed into the house. Tracy, are you okay? Claire quickly hugged her sister. I'm fine. Mom only has one son. She's just panicked. Tracy sniffled, rubbing her cheek. Go ask your colleagues what exactly is going on, Claire said, trying to stay calm. We need facts. A few minutes later, Kevin was dragged out of the house in handcuffs. Eldest sister, save me. Kevin bawled, his legs giving out. It was Leo. Leo set me up. Eldest sister, it was him. He continued screaming Leo's name as he was shoved into the back of a squad car. Tracy looked at her phone, her eyes widening in horror. Eldest sister, I got the file. The driver who tried to run over Hazel confessed. The mastermind was Kevin. Tracy's voice shook. He transferred money to a terminal cancer patient to fake a drunk driving accident and kill her. The paper trail is airtight, Claire gasped, a chill running down her spine. Was he doing this to get revenge on Hazel? She knew full well how the boss of the West Side operated. If Kevin messed with the boss's people, he was as good as dead. We have to find Leo. Tracy clenched her fists. If Hazel signs a forgiveness waiver, Kevin might get a reduced sentence. I'll go find Hazel, Claire said immediately. At Dragon Hills Cemetery. I stepped out of my car, dressed in a black suit, and marched toward the central tomb. Behind me, dozens of men in black suits followed closely. When I reached the grave, I froze. The urn vault was smashed open. The ashes were gone. The grave was empty. I spun around, grabbing the cemetery guard by the collar.
Who was here? Show me the security footage!
I think a guy with a limp came by earlier, the guard stammered. Blake, go check the cameras, I roared. Just then, Tracy ran up the path. Seeing the destroyed grave, she stopped in her tracks. Leo, is playing the sugar baby so fun that you decided to dig up your own master's grave to please Hazel? Tracy shrieked, her eyes wide with fury. Old man Lincoln raised you, taught you everything. Where are his ashes? Tracy's eyes were red as she raised her fist and charged at me. Tracy. I caught her wrist effortlessly, my voice dropping to a terrifying calm. In your eyes, I'll always be the villain, won't I? No matter what Kevin does, it's always my fault. I pushed her back violently, my eyes practically glowing with murderous intent. Yes, I scattered his ashes. I am an ungrateful, unfilial monster. Are you happy now? I turned and walked back to the car. I, Leo, have a clear conscience. I don't owe the heavens, I don't owe the earth, and I don't owe old man Lincoln. Why should I explain myself to you? Who are you to demand an explanation? I climbed into the Range Rover. Blake handed me a tablet. The screen showed footage of Uncle Harry, limping into the cemetery and taking the ashes. I stared at the screen, utterly baffled. Impossible. Boss, what do we do now? Blake asked cautiously. Leo, get out here! Tracy pounded on the window. Explain yourself. Did Hazel frame Kevin? I kicked the door open, sending Tracy stumbling backward. This is my final warning. If you ever disrespect me again, I'll send you down to see the old man myself, smacks. I slapped Tracy across the face. Remember that. I got back in the car. Tracy stood there crying, pulling out her phone with trembling hands. Eldest sister. Leo dug up Dad's grave. He hid the ashes, and he hit me. What? He dug up the grave? Claire, who was currently waiting outside the Beautiful View apartments, was stunned. Are you sure? He admitted it. I saw him standing over the broken tomb. Tracy sobbed. Go to the police station and figure out what's happening with Kevin. Claire rubbed her temples, feeling a massive migraine coming on. Don't worry about the dead right now. We have to save the living. Okay, be careful, eldest sister, Tracy warned before hanging up. He's lost his mind. He's totally ruthless now. 10 minutes later, my convoy of Range Rovers arrived at the apartment complex. Claire was standing in the middle of the road, blocking my car. Leo, does Kevin's arrest have anything to do with you? She asked, her eyes sharp. The driver hit my person. I told him to call the cops. So yes, I didn't bother hiding it. Claire looked shocked. Leo, how could you? He's the old man's only biological son. I know he caused trouble for you, but the old man raised us, taught us everything. Do you have no heart? I laughed coldly. You know what he did? And if I was the one who hired a hitman to kill Kevin, what would you do to me? Claire was speechless. She hesitated, then slowly dropped to her knees on the asphalt. I'm begging you. I know I wronged you. Claire knelt there, her voice breaking. But what's done is done. I looked at her, completely unmoved. If you let Kevin go, I will do anything to make it up to you, she pleaded. You know he did it, and now you want to throw me a pity party? I sneered. I don't need your pity, and I don't need your compensation. Leo, I don't want anything from you people, I cut her off, signaling the driver to keep moving. Leo, Claire screamed, scrambling to her feet, desperate to keep me from leaving. If you just acknowledge me as your sister, you'll always be my brother. I didn't even blink. What a great sister. Tell me, Claire, if someone hired a hitman to kill your girlfriend, what would you do? Claire hesitated. I'd make sure he rotted in prison. But since it's Kevin, you're on your knees begging for him. I smiled cruelly. You Lincoln sisters are all the same, hypocrites. I rolled the window up. Drive. Leo, please. Claire threw herself in front of the bumper. If you don't agree, just run me over. She was trying to use her life as leverage. I didn't tell the driver to stop. The driver slammed on the gas. The tires screeched as the massive SUV surged forward. At the last possible millisecond, Claire threw herself to the side, tumbling hard across the pavement. Her arms were scraped and bleeding. She sat by the curb, sobbing uncontrollably. Her phone rang. Eldest sister. I checked. Tracy's voice shook. Kevin really did hire a hitman. He wired the money to a terminal cancer patient. The paper trail is solid. He's guilty. But Hazel is fine. If we can get her to sign a waiver of forgiveness, we might be able to reduce his sentence. Go home and comfort Mom, Claire said numbly, then hung up. Inside Harry's apartment. Uncle Harry, I need to ask you something. I placed my phone on the table. The screen showed a still from the cemetery security camera. Please don't lie to me. I need the truth. Brother Leo, what's wrong? Hazel asked, confused. Hazel, take your mother into the bedroom. Harry glanced at the photo, then back at me. Once they were gone, Harry lit a cigarette and sighed. I didn't steal the ashes because I was mad at the Lincolns. If that's what you're thinking, go ahead, hit me if you want. You're a bad liar, Uncle Harry. I leaned forward. What is the truth? Harry took a long drag, then crushed the cigarette. Leo, there are things I have to tell you now. Brace yourself. He pulled me out into the hallway, looking down at the busy street below. Hazel is not my biological daughter. What? I narrowed my eyes. You have an extreme yin constitution. She has an extreme yang constitution. Harry sighed heavily. She, just like you, was adopted by Mr. Lincoln. What else do you know? What exactly was my master's relationship with me? I took a step back, the mysteries piling up in my head. Do not tell Hazel about this. Harry looked deeply saddened. I raised her since she was 1. She's my daughter in every way that matters. I was just a servant to Mr. Lincoln. He intended for you and Hazel to grow up together, but then Kevin tried to assault her. Victoria hated me for reporting it, so I had to take Hazel and run. He paused. As for the ashes, 3 days before he died, Mr. Lincoln came to me personally and gave me strict orders to scatter them. He was perfectly healthy that day, but he acted like he knew he was going to die. Mr. Lincoln gave me a second chance at life. I promised to fulfill his final wish, no matter what. Harry pulled a sealed envelope from his shirt and handed it to me. I tore it open. I, Arthur Lincoln, have lived a free life. I detest complicated rituals. My ashes are to be scattered by Harry, per my instructions. Do not make things difficult for him. Tears blurred my vision. I gripped the letter tightly, a storm of emotions raging inside me. Mr. Lincoln guessed the sisters would find out eventually, so he left this letter. Harry patted my shoulder. Leo, just stay here with us. Live a peaceful life. He smiled bitterly. I'm just a useless old man. Extreme yin, extreme yang. I don't understand any of it. But I think Mr. Lincoln was trying to accomplish something massive and he failed. I don't know what he was protecting. I do remember. When he was young, he lived in a thatched hut on a mountain. The nicest room in the hut was dedicated to a single memorial tablet. Whose tablet? I asked. I think it said Master Li Shenyi. Harry shook his head. It was too long ago. I can't remember clearly. Li Shenyi. The name felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. That's all I know, Harry coughed. Mr. Lincoln is gone. No one knows the answers. I don't even know your true parentage. Thank you, Uncle Harry. I smiled bitterly. The past doesn't matter. We keep looking forward. Harry coughed again and limped back inside. I stood on the balcony, my mind racing. How many secrets did the old man have? He took those secrets to his grave. Why did he stay in this city? Am I really just a nobody? I scoffed at myself, feeling a surge of anger and defiance. If I'm a nobody, do I just let everyone else decide my fate? I walked downstairs and called Blake. Check the cameras. 3 days before the old man died, who did he meet? Where did he go? I want a detailed report. I might not be able to beat the heavens, I thought, but I demand to know exactly how I lose. Understood, boss, Blake replied. By the way, second boss Cole's club got smashed up this morning. Any idea who did it? I laughed coldly. The Black Snake. The Southside boss is dead. The other factions in the city are starting to get restless. Blake sounded annoyed. Cole just called. The Black Snake kidnapped his son to force him to betray us. I unbuttoned my collar, a cruel smirk forming. Perfect. I've got a lot of pent-up anger right now, and nowhere to vent it. Clean them out tonight. If a single factory on the south side is still operating by tomorrow morning, you can go buy your own coffin at Dragon Hill, I ordered calmly. Blake's eyes practically glowed with bloodlust through the phone. Ha ha ha! Just waiting for the word, boss.